the technologies.
So hard.
I am a late millennial, everybody, so that's what I'm going to blame this on.
I was wondering that yesterday if you were millennial or Gen X.
Fuck you.
What? What's the cutoff? I don't even know.
I don't know. I think Gen X, I'd have to be like, I think in the 40s somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's the.
I'm sorry
I think
to
that's the
insult
thing.
you. I know you're not 40.
How dare you? All right. Okay, everyone. I think we got it. Sorry about that. Sorry about the little technical delays there. I think we're good now. Okay, so everyone, welcome. I'm here with Natalie Tate, the sort of lesser-known sibling of Andrew and Tristan Tate. I wanted to get maybe a slightly less biased perspective here, and so she is coming on with an unusually girthy cigar.
Oh yeah, look at this bad boy
in the live
Beautiful.
stream.
Smells gross.
So welcome everyone. So I think this should be fun. Natalie and I have spoken a little bit about this debate offline, but not too much. And I don't know, you've obviously watched the whole thing, Natalie?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing the night that it came out, and then I watched like part of Joey's thing afterward. But I believe you've watched it, what, 3 times?
Yes.
So I haven't watched as much as you.
I've watched it quite a few times, probably like two or three times, like 2 times probably fully paying attention, and then like a couple more times while playing video games, like with it in the background, like just trying to absorb it through osmosis. So I'm
surprised it hasn't affected your mental health.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, so I think what we're going to do, we're going to watch, we're not going to watch the whole video because like I can't watch this whole video again. We're going to basically get the idea watching some of it. But then I think we'll kind of go into commentary in the end. So first we're just probably commentate on like what's actually happening in the video. And then I think later we want to sort of talk about like maybe like Joey's performance, what he did well, what he could have done better, sort of things like that.
Trash talk everyone.
Yeah, just shit talk people.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah,
but my specialty.
But yeah, and before we even get to that, like obviously any critique I'm gonna have of Joey, like this is clearly Monday morning quarterbacking. If I was on there myself, I'm not saying I could have done any better. This isn't everything like that. I appreciate all the work Joey did. I'm happy he got to talk to Tristan. And so just like let me put those caveats out there. Oh, and actually I did a Instagram poll here. And I basically asked people if they thought that, I'm just going to check it now and see like what the latest is. Okay, so I said overall the Joey Carbstrong versus Tristan Tate debate was good for veganism, neutral for veganism, bad for veganism, or who the fuck is Tristan Tate? And good for veganism actually got 35%, neutral got 32%, bad got 21%, and then who the fuck is Tristan Tate was 12%. So
damn, I can't believe people actually don't know who he is.
I'm
so jealous of that.
I know, that's what I said. I'm like, oh, my sweet summer children. Like, how blessed it would be.
Yes. So. Well, I'm surprised that many people said it was good.
So I was going to ask you, what do you think? Do you think good for veganism, neutral, bad, or what?
I think bad, probably bad,
okay.
Because there are some people that like DM me on Instagram, like with like their anti-vegan arguments, and like I'll discuss with them or whatever. And I got a couple people afterward, like, how do you argue with Christian? Like they were basically using Tate's arguments. So I think it like reinforced their worldview. I was like, well, they clearly watched Tristan Tate because they sound exactly like him right now.
Yeah.
But that's just a couple people. It's hard to say. Anytime people are talking about veganism, that's probably better. You have to think probably a lot of people who watched it went to Joey's channel. There's a lot of really great stuff on there. Maybe they saw something. So yeah, it could be good.
Yeah. My vote is actually, I feel like I'm ever the optimist here. My vote is still good for veganism, but like good with room for improvement was kind of like my general takeaway from it. So
yeah.
All right,
and
so cool.
We will.
That's good. I'm glad that we don't have
talk about ways we can improve it.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't have total agreement there. That'll make this more interesting. All right, so let's just start watching some of this shit show to begin with here. Not sure where we're going to start.
A debate or whatever.
Let's see where we're...
Why don't you debate Joey Carbstrong on veganism?
Yeah.
Now, my first reaction was, why would I debate on veganism? I didn't understand why anyone wanted to see me debate on veganism because I'm not really that interested in the topic, to be perfectly honest. I myself am not a vegan, but I don't really care who is, so I didn't see the need for a debate, and I voiced that concern on Twitter. And Joey, for all those watching on Rumble, 10,000 of you now, I want to let you know, has been very polite and very respectful, but his fans were not. His fans obviously attacked me on Twitter, as is the nature of the internet. Believe me, my skin's thick enough to put up with it by now. And said, oh, you're scared to debate him on veganism. You're scared to debate him on veganism. And I thought, you know what? One, I'm not scared of talking to anybody about any topic. And two, this Joey guy is so respectful and normal, seemingly. Let's have him on the podcast and let's see what he thinks, or what he wants me to think, or what he wants everyone in the world who eats meat to think. So you never know. At the end of this podcast, I may declare myself a vegan. I don't know. I've done no debate preparation because veganism isn't something that I study or prepare for. To very quickly introduce my...
So any commentary there where he says he hasn't prepared at all? True, not true? What do you think?
I think he prepared a little bit, but before that, I want to say, I think it's kind of funny that he saw Joey and was like, he's so incredibly respectful, because usually he's characterized by the public as like the most aggressive, like worst kind of vegan activist. So that's interesting. And then didn't you make a video about how he was scared of vegans, or was that about Andrew?
No, that was him. That was like the initial post where he was like, I'll debate anyone. And someone's like, debate him. And he's like, no.
That's funny. I think he did do some prep, because at one point he brings up nutrition, and it seems like he actually did kind of look into it. Yeah. What do you think?
I know. I think you're right as well, because there were a couple places that he didn't go and that he like caved on like right away. And I don't mean caved like in a bad way. He was just like, yeah, no, I agree with that. Like clearly we can be vegan now. Like clearly like you can be healthy and be vegan, which was like very surprising to me, because
me too.
I thought for sure that was the way he was going to go with it. And it seemed like what you said, like he actually like read up a little, was like, okay, I don't have a super strong argument from that angle, so I need to like go somewhere else. So I think he did prep a bit. And I think he kind of took a bit of the Destiny approach here, where you basically say like some version, like Destiny's thing is some version of I don't care to some degree. And so I think I think people have just started to come to realize that the I don't care is like a kind of, it's a very awkward position to respond to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like such a non-argument, but it's also tough to respond to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I feel like more people are going to be taking that route, unfortunately. So, but yeah. We'll talk about it in a second. But I just wanted to see if you thought that he debate prep, because I think he did.
Yeah. I think so, at least a little bit. Maybe not like he probably didn't watch a full debate of Joey's, but he probably did a little bit.
Yeah. I also think he has a team around him who was like, hey, maybe go this angle or this angle, not that angle, you know? So I think he's stretching the truth a little bit there, but
yeah.
All right.
Cigar. This is a Hoyo de Monterrey double Corona. It's about as large as Cuban cigars get. So I've got a very big Cuban cigar tonight.
I think mine's
I don't
bigger.
feel this conversation is going to be over with very quickly. And I'm going to put on my headphones in just a second. And I know you're listening, Joey, so I'm going to, when you appear on screen, give you a chance to introduce yourself to everybody, I guess, in my audience who may or may not know who you are.
I don't think we need to listen to normal speed.
Hello. Thank you very much, mate. It's a great introduction. And like Tristan said, like this is going to be a civil discussion. I know we're framing, like you might see my YouTube thumbnail, framing it as a little bit of a debate or whatever.
I think he gets paused here.
So you're a man of your word, as you said,
Indeed.
You're a man of your word. You didn't forget. And you even reached out to me. It was been like a couple months since, or like at least 4 weeks since we last chatted.
Something
you reached
like that,
out to me. So like, you know what? Kudos to you, mate. And yeah, like I know people calling you scared and this and that. Oh, you're too scared to, but that's not what I saw from you anyway. So I will just quickly introduce myself. That's cool with you.
Please, go ahead.
That's what I saw.
I hear you nice and smooth.
That's great. Yeah, so basically, my social media handle is Joey Carbstrong, but I changed my name from Armstrong to Carbstrong after I left gangs. I come out of prison. Spent about 6 months in prison for firearms. I was on the streets from 14 onwards, and got involved in drugs, gangs. Then we got into high-level organised crime, outlaw motorcycle gangs in Australia, and landed myself in prison. I was on house arrest for 20 months, and I got 13 months. I served about 6 and got out on parole. Part of my parole was not drinking, just taking drugs because I didn't want to go back to jail. And I was in solitary. I spent 5 days in solitary, and I know you've been prison too, so you know what it's like. It's not a fun place. I definitely didn't want to go back, that's for sure. So I got sober. Part of my sobriety was like thinking I don't want to be violent anymore. Where am I violent in my life? And I had this seed planted about karma and hypocrisy. Like I just seen people that were like save the whales, save the dolphins. They were against palm oil because it kills chimpanzees, but they were eating like a cow. And I was like, you're a hypocrite. At least I can admit it. I'm eating steak right now, and I can see the hypocrisy. And that's what, like, when I got sober and aligned got my head clear, and I started changing my trajectory in my life, I aligned my actions with my morals and went vegan. I've been an outspoken I've always been outspoken, and I've been an outspoken activist ever since. So I'm not your typical kind of pasty-faced, stereotypical vegan like people like to, say. I'm actually a bit different to what people perceive as vegans. I don't know how people perceive vegans. Vegans are from all different like walks of life, and like they're just different. Everyone is different. I've met that's a vegan. They're all different. So I'm an activist. I've been online. I've been on different TV shows talking about this. I've got about just over, I think, over 200 to 300 views talking about this topic across my social media platform. 200 to 300 million views, sorry, not 200 to 300 million views talking about this topic. That would be a failure. But yeah, so yeah, pretty well known on Facebook and things like that. But a lot of people don't like me, but yeah, we'll see how this conversation goes. So that's who I am, and yeah.
All right.
So what do you think about Joey's opener?
I thought his opener was good. I like how he mentioned eating steak, because that's the one that like makes men feel like men feel like men or whatever. For some reason, they always talk about steak. And I like how, yeah, he kind of talked about the hypocrisy. He did a good job, just like his quick kind of vegan story, hitting on the notes I think that Tate's audience would want to see from a man, right? Like going to prison, being on house arrest, not wanting to go back there. He built some good rapport with Tate too. Like, hey, you've been in jail too. Like, it sucks. I thought that was good as well. How about you?
Yeah, I think that I think this is one of the strongest parts of the entire debate, actually, which is funny because it's not there's no debating, right? And I think the thing is, when we think about these discussions and debates, we're always thinking like, what is the exact thing I would say here? What is my dialogue tree? If they say this, I should say this. If they say that, I should say that. But there is a lot about like rapport building, and then just the general vibe that the audience takes away. Because oftentimes in these long debates, like we talk about veganism all the time, and so like it's easier for our brains to remember every single point that's made, because we're like swimming in this, you know what I mean? Like if you're like a chess player, you can watch a chess game and then like remember each of the exact moves. But if you don't play chess and you watch someone, it's like you don't have as much to graft onto your memory. And so a lot of people who aren't into veganism, I think, are going to watch this debate and walk away with a general vibe, more so than like, oh, I remember these 6 arguments and these were the responses and such and such. And so like, I think it's obviously important to give the good responses in a debate format, but you also want the audience to walk away with a certain overall impression. And I feel like
an impression of you as like an individual.
Yeah, both an impression of you as an individual and an impression of the debate. And like, I think this is kind of the thing with debates that kind of sucks, actually. Like, I actually would rather it just be like a computer program where like you just output the best arguments and then they win. But that's unfortunately not how it works. And so like, I mean, basically everything you said, it made him relatable. He related to Tate on like they shared the prison experience together, Also, weirdly, it seems like there's something manly about going to prison, which probably appeals to Tate's audience, And then also just
being in gangs, like a motorcycle gang, like that's pretty badass.
Right, exactly. So it's like, I think it's good that he hit on all that, and like he says, and he even explicitly says it. He's like, I'm not the stereotype, right? And so I think that breaking of the stereotype can also be really powerful. And so I think it sets the stage in a good way, like, because what people think of as, one of those screeching vegans who's just overly emotional and like has never, and also like has never seen the real world. I get that impression a lot too. Like, you just don't know how the real world works, son, or they always like, I feel like a lot of people like will infantilize you in some way. Like, you've never been through any hardships, so you don't know why it's okay to gas a pig,
Or like nothing bad has ever happened to you. That's why you care about animals.
Exactly.
It's like such a ridiculous thing to care about, or whatnot.
Yeah. I find actually somewhat the opposite, in that some people who actually have gone through bad things tend to start caring more about other people, because
for sure,
like I'll tell you, whenever I've told this on here before, that I was on an antidepressant when I was younger, and for like obsessive compulsiveness, not for depression, right? And prior to that, like, I was like the happiest kid growing up. Like, people would always be like, bro, why are you smiling so much? You're like smiling too much. Like, I was like super happy. And I was one of those assholes who was like, depression isn't real. Like,
oh, wow.
You just need to exercise more. You just need to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Now, again, this is when I was like 18 to 20, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's like, I've been a little sad sometimes and like blah, blah, blah. And when I came off that medication, it had this effect on me where I started experiencing like almost every symptom that people have to get on the medication. And so I experienced depression for the first time, and like real, like,
when you were 20,
I would have been 20. Wait, I guess I would have been 22.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have been 22, I guess. that I experienced like true depression and like severe depression. And I was like, oh, I can't just like get a little more vitamin D or like walk outside to cure this.
I
Like,
can't
this
go
is
to
like,
the gym anymore, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going too much.
I'm like, this is like oppressive. Like, I cannot escape this feeling, like no matter what I do. And so, I mean, to me, that made me way more empathetic. Then I was like, okay, well, I better stop saying this bullshit about like just like lift yourself up by your bootstraps. So yeah, I don't know. That always annoys me when people say that. Like, you haven't been through anything, and that's why you care. But
yeah, the other thing that's annoying is when they're like, you've never farmed, you've never killed animals, and I just think that's the most ridiculous argument. Like, oh yeah, I have to kill children to know it's wrong. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I wasn't at Auschwitz either, but I think maybe something bad happened there. Yeah, something bad might have happened there. I can't say for sure though.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
All right, let's keep going through this. I don't know how much we'll watch. Maybe we'll watch like 30 minutes or so. I think we'll get the gist of it by then.
Yeah, have a respectable goal.
Well,
I
mean, my first question to you would be, why me? I mean, I know you didn't put your fans up to this, like tweeting underneath my posts, etc. But why am I the type of person who you thought would be beneficial to have a veganism debate on? Because I truly don't care. As of right now, I don't care 1% about any of the issues vegans bring up. So why me?
Well, I've seen your post come up on Twitter. And this isn't the first. So basically, you said the number one sign of intelligence in 2023 is the ability to disagree on issues and stay civil. Yes. I'll follow men I disagree with on Twitter. I'll sit down and talk to him like I like opposing points of view. I said, come on my YouTube channel and debate veganism. And you said there doesn't need to be debating. Eat what you want. I'll do the same, right?
Well, I don't have an opposing point of view. Is my point. I'm happy for you to be a vegan. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the reason that I thought of you, because it's not the first time I encountered you, actually. You're all over social media, and you're mega famous.
Unfortunately.
And it's not the first time talking about veganism either. So, like, I responded to a couple of live stream that you and Andrew did. And I know Andrew's, he's not here, so we're not here to talk about Andrew's views. We're talking to you. But, you did chime in on a couple of times when Andrew was talking about his problems with vegans and vegetarians or people that don't eat meat and how he doesn't respect them and things like that. But then you were talking about the problem with veganism and talking about how vegans not only kill more animals, they also shouldn't expect everyone in the world to be vegan, and you talked about the Messiah. That live stream. So
yes.
that might have been just a small talking point for you, but obviously the vegan movement, we all...
I say it was a very small talking point to me. And obviously on my last live stream, if anyone saw, I was making a bunch of jokes about Irish people. And my Irish friend was sitting here with me. So it's not something exclusive that I do to pick on the vegan community. I like to have a good laugh at everybody. I think that's how we, stay friendly. I make jokes about all the things I am, certainly. So if the vegan community, obviously watched that and took that personal, then good, because I guess now here you are speaking to me. But what's the debate that we could possibly have? I see a discussion, but what's the debate?
Well, it depends. It depends on what you think about this topic, because we can get straight into it if you want. Like, I thought we might, there's plenty to debate here, because you obviously think it's, like, judging by the way that you live your life, like, it's completely morally justifiable to have animals endure a slaughterhouse so you can eat their body. Like, so if you believe that, then I don't believe that. I believe it's not justifiable. I don't think we have any morally justifiable coherent moral reason to do this to these non-human animals. Okay. And you believe it's totally fine and you don't care.
Absolutely.
So I think that is a point to debate.
Are you?
So this is like something that, again, I don't know if Tate is playing dumb here or not, because I have heard other people say this, but it's like, it's this implicit assumption that the neutral position, like being non-vegan, is a neutral position rather than a position in and of itself, which is why he's saying, well, I don't care if other people are vegan. It's like, bro, that's not the point. Like, you're totally not getting it,
That's a thought-terminating cliche, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like personal choice, though, or agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so, we live in such a non-vegan society that probably most people do think of it as a neutral position. Like, they don't realize the side that they're on because they never, like he said, he doesn't really think about it. He mentioned it once in like a live stream and promptly forgot about it. That's how little most people think about veganism, unfortunately. Yeah,
there's an essay called, I think, This is Water. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it's like written from the perspective of a fish. And like, I think someone asked the fish,
David Foster Wallace, is that right?
That is David Foster Wallace. Yeah, look at you. I wasn't even going to mention him. But I think the thing is like, it's like this like concept of like, if you ask a fish like, oh, how do you like the water? And the fish is like, what? Like, what are you talking about? It's like, I mean, I guess this is the whole idea of like carnism and stuff, but it is interesting to see
the invisible belief system.
Yeah, exactly. To see it like in such sharp relief here when he says that. But I do think it's a thought terminating cliche. I'm going to make the argument later that I think that I don't care is also a thought terminating cliche, not less a stance and more a thought terminating cliche. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, but I do want to hear your argument for it.
Yeah, I think it's the case. We'll see. All right, time for religion stuff.
Oh man. I like how you already know what's coming.
Yeah, I know. I've got it all memorized.
any religious beliefs before we start? That'd be interesting. Or are you an atheist?
No, I
You
don't.
hold religious.
I would be. I don't claim to know everything about the universe. I'm more agnostic. I don't know, but I do lean towards. It's a very bizarre world we live in, and it's very hard for me to come to terms with it being a cosmic accident. But at the same time, I've had some spiritual awakenings in my life through my hard journey in violence and pulling myself out of addiction and things like that. And I've sometimes felt like someone was watching over me. But to say that I'm practicing some kind of religion, I don't think so, no.
Understand, because I feel like a lot of the hard lines that people are scared of debating these days, I mean, there's lots of different debates on LGBTQ rights in the community, etc. And people who are, for example, Muslims will have their hard lines on it and say, well, my religious belief is this, you shouldn't be questioning my religious belief. I myself am an Orthodox Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the word of the Bible. And the Bible makes it very, very clear that man has dominion over animals. It tells us which animals we can and which animals we can't eat. And I don't understand how any man could argue with a Christian about that. If I say God's word is final, where would you come in and oppose me?
So you eat meat because God told you it's okay? Is that?
No,
you've never said that before.
No, I love meat. I absolutely love meat, and I don't feel any duty towards the animals that are killed for my meat, just like any other predator in the world doesn't. I don't believe when a shark eats a seal or eats a human, that a shark has done anything morally wrong. I don't believe the shark needs to be reprimanded. I don't believe the shark is evil. So like any meat-eating creature on Earth, I don't feel sad for the prey that I consume.
Okay.
And I don't know why I should.
See, so like, okay, this is like the first thing that starts to get weird. Because like, whenever I made a video to respond to him, it's like unclear like what his position actually is. And so like, he brings up the religion first and he's like, so wait, it's because God? And he's like, well, no, it's because blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't consider them. And then he jumps to like, predators don't.
Nature, though.
And so it's like it's kind of like a religion. And then all of a sudden, like, it's sort of, I don't care, or they're below me, and then over to nature. And it's like, it happens very rapidly. And so like, it's kind of hard to like track what his actual position is, which is kind of what's annoying in these discussions sometimes.
Oh yeah, that happens to me all the time. It's like someone will just spew like 5 excuses and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to remember all of these? And I try to go one by one, and a lot of times I end up going backwards, then I forget the ones at the beginning. And like, but the good thing Joey did there was clarify, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, so you eat meat because God said so, and then Tate's like, no.
Yeah.
But it's like so many other reasons.
Exactly.
Do they talk more about religion, or?
Yeah, they'll go into it a little more here.
Okay, because I do want to go over different responses you can use for.
Yeah, why don't you do that
arguments.
right now? Why don't we do that right now and talk about like what you think you would say here?
Yeah, so I've definitely made the mistake many times of doing the wrong thing, and then I think there's something that's better to do. So the tempting thing to do, right, is to be like, oh, well, here's all this other shit the Bible said. Do you believe all that? So like I used to go straight for like Leviticus 22 to 24, slavery's fine. And I found that really kind of like destroys your rapport, shockingly.
Yep.
Telling
them that their whole book is bullshit that they think is important. Yeah. It's weird that.
It's crazy to me. So yeah, that's kind of the tempting thing. And I think what a lot of people want to do in debates, because it is a good point. But I'm glad that Joey didn't go for that. And the thing that I do now that I've tested out a few times, do you know Arvind, Animal Activist? He's like this Indian guy.
Yeah.
So he made this video. He was like talking to a class, and I basically stole his answer. So it's essentially like when people say animals are here, God put animals here for us. Then you can say, if God first you would bring up dominion, actually, before you get into that. So you bring up the idea of dominion. You say, don't you think dominion means stewardship and care? And you think that what we're doing, breeding these animals by the billions to torment them and kill them at a fraction of their lifespan, like, is that stewardship? And then they'll usually say like, oh yeah, I guess that's not really stewardship. Like whatever they think. Most people agree with the definition of dominion, that it does include responsibility. So then you go into, if God put animals here for us, why don't they line up at slaughterhouses? If God put animals here for us, why do they feel pain? And there were like a few other things, like just kind of you question why they can suffer and things like that. But I think the lining up at slaughterhouses is a really good one.
Yeah.
Why do they have to be prodded with electric prods to go into the slaughterhouses if they're here for us?
Yeah, I like all that. Yeah, I definitely think I think the two routes you don't want to go are the one that you said, where you're like, well, the Bible also says this about slavery, right? Like, again, there might be a point at which you like need to go there, but I would never go there first. And then the other thing is, I think the worst one is arguing that like they need to show that God exists. Like,
I've never seen someone do that in a debate.
In the moment, it is bad because Yeah, because it's just going to lead down a completely other road. You know what I mean? So I think what I actually like to do, I like to try to keep like my responses as simple as possible. And so I'm more like, well, does the Bible say that you can't be vegan? And they're usually like, no.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm like, so you don't have to be vegan. There's no sin with it, right? So why choose to put these animals through that amount of suffering when you don't have to? And so like, I feel like, again, they can always get around it by saying, well, God said it's okay, so why would I not choose it? You know what I mean? There's always that response, and there's always going to be a response, you know, to a more, I don't know, I guess stubborn person or whatever. But I find that works pretty well because it's kind of like there's plenty of things that the Bible doesn't explicitly say you can't do, but that you wouldn't do anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Like it doesn't say don't shove sand in kittens' eyeballs.
Yeah, right. But so like it seems like you probably could shove sand in kittens' eyeballs, but why would you? You know? So, yeah, I like both those. I like questioning about like, yeah, what is dominion? Like dominion includes stewardship. Because like even if you have dominion over a child, like that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to the child. Even if you have dominion over like if someone's like, watch my apartment, like you have dominion over my apartment. It doesn't.
I have dominion.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you could like set their apartment on fire or something, or like just take a shit on their couch. I don't know.
Oh, Ed had a good response too. Actually, I just remembered this. He said like, if God put animals here for us, then why is meat the biggest cause of heart disease? But then you kind of have to go down the health road, which, you know, you may not want to.
I never want to go down the health road.
I know you never do.
I know
you don't.
Never want to go down the health
road.
It's so because everyone has heard some random study, and then there's an anecdote about how they felt better, and I'm like, here's studies, and the person's like, but my anecdote though, anecdote.
Like that guy I was talking to that was like, I was vegan for a year, and I was like, well, you know, anecdotes, and he was like, are you saying my experience was invalid? I was like, kind of I am, but I don't want to say that.
It's like, yeah, that's kind of the problem with anecdotes. Is that your experience is kind of like not a, it's rough. Yeah. That's funny. All right. Damn, we're only 10 minutes in. We're not going to get very far into this.
We're not going to watch the whole thing. That would be insanity.
All right, let's keep going. Let's plow ahead.
Well, I mean, we can unpack that for sure. I mean, first of all, God says it's okay is one, like it was written in the Bible basically, or written in the Word of God that God gave permission to eat certain animals and not others.
Well, that is in the Bible. I'm just saying, how would you counter that argument? Because people don't like to go against people's religious hardlines. And this isn't a religious hardline.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to know what you believe, but I want to know what you believe, Tristan, because there's a lot of people with different beliefs out there, but I want to know, because I'm really interested in, because I've been following you, I've been watching, and maybe, I don't know if you've been watching anything that I talk about or whatever, but I've been watching a little bit about, you do care.
I saw you on
You
Piers
do
Morgan.
care. Yeah, but Piers Morgan pretends like he doesn't care. Like he cares. He thinks he cares about bees and all that sort of shit. He doesn't. He just
no one cares about bees. I mean, no one cares about bees.
Is it still coming through?
Yeah, it's working. I'm seeing no delays here, and we're going on my normal screen.
I lost you after bees. I lost you after bees.
Yeah, I don't care about bees, and I'm not going to pretend that I do care about bees because that would be a bit stupid if I sat here and said, "Oh, I care so much about bees. How can you eat this food that kills bees, etc." I don't care about bees, but I don't care about the other animals I eat either.
Okay, so because
you said I do. You said I do care.
I said you do care about many other issues. That's what I said. You do care about many other issues.
Indeed,
you care about human beings, and you care about other animals. And so you're not just a heartless person who lacks empathy and doesn't give a shit about anything. Because I used to be around people like that. I used to be around true, cold psychopaths, like in the gang world, and that they did not care about anything. There was a couple of them, and you just knew they don't care. You've probably been around them too.
Well, I'm actually
not that type of person.
No, and I care very deeply about humanity and other people. But I don't think that extends to the animal kingdom.
You do.
Yeah, so I think this is a kind of smart thing that Joey does here in the beginning. When you like you're a good person, right? You think you're a good person. Like, yes, I think I'm a good person. And when people answer in that like affirmative way, or they say like I'm an X, they tend to then their sort of responses. Yeah, they're gonna try to be consistent with that then afterwards. Now here it doesn't really work, but I think it's generally like a smart strategy. Like I do this sometimes too. Like if the person genuinely answers questions in a way where to me they seem like a good person, I just tell them that. I'm like, I mean, you seem like a good person, and so like, why would you want to X, Y, Z? And so like, because I don't want to lie, I'm not going to lie and say like you seem like a good, because some of the people I talk to seem like fucking assholes.
They're trash. Yeah.
but most people do seem like good people, and it is a good thing to kind of just reinforce in there because it tends to make people think about it and want to be like consistent with like that image of themselves. So I think that was a decent strategy there.
So there is something I disliked about all that. So first of all, I really dislike how he didn't address the appeal to nature right away. I think it's really important, especially when someone's talking to a large audience and an audience that's like maybe not the smartest, like probably the number one argument that his audience uses is that animals eat other animals and nature though. So yeah, I think it's bad to not address that. Like that would probably be the first thing I did when I got on here. Is like, by the way, like animals do a lot of things that we don't consider moral. And then the other thing that I didn't necessarily like is like him talking so much. I guess we'll talk more about that. Like how he's too focused on what Tate believes, and I know that's kind of like the point of debates and whatnot. But I think it's better to focus less on him and more on just like kind of talking to his audience. Because we already know what Tate believes, right? He doesn't care. So I don't know. That kind of starts to fall apart a little bit later, though.
Yeah, I think obviously he has to talk to Tate and like address his arguments. It's a discussion between those two. And if he goes too far off the rails, Tate's going to be like, well, those aren't my positions. What are you doing? But like at the same time, knowing you have about an hour and a half, I think it is worthwhile to just quickly address some of the most common anti-vegan arguments. Like I think he should have just started right from the beginning and been like, and I know these might not be yours, but I just like know a lot of people think these things. And so like, yeah, boom, here's like the appeal to nature. Here's the appeal to tradition. Like the ones that are just really easy to like knock down.
Crop deaths though. I would do that too.
Yeah. Crop deaths is, see, I don't know if I would bring up crop deaths. I'm not sure.
I guarantee so many people in that chat were saying vegans kill more animals. I would have probably had someone looking at the chat too
and
to see what people were saying. It's probably hard with like 30,000 people. There's probably a lot of trash in there. But I think that would be a good strategy.
I definitely think, and I think that's something I was going to save this for later, but we might as well say it now. I think this is probably my biggest critique. I have two sort of big critiques of Joey here. And one of them is that like, I feel like he often wasn't just clear on the anti-vegan debunk. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there were a lot of times when he kept it like almost too like, hey, we're just bros having a conversation, when I wish he would have been like you could take like literally 15 seconds and just like like the appeal to nature literally takes like 15 seconds to just show people why it doesn't work. And same with like appeal to tradition, right? Like you can just like knock those out, boom, boom, boom. And it's like
early on so that they can't keep like coming back to it too.
Exactly. And I think I actually, now that we're talking, I wish I kind of would have put that in my video. So the video that I did on this, if people haven't seen it, I did a sort of response video to this that's like just like 10 or 15 minutes long. And the point of that video wasn't to like break down the debate. It was literally to just like quickly debunk most of the points that Tate said that I didn't feel like Joey like super succinctly debunked. Because I watched that and I was like, oh, he's just going to debunk all those points. So all the people in the audience are now going to like know those debunks and know it's done. And like when I was done watching it, my general impression was like, I did not leave with like a clear, like this was debunked, this was debunked, this was debunked. And so that's,
and because they weren't, right?
And that's why I made the video, because I was like, okay, and that video honestly was directed more at Tate fans than it was at vegan. So if you watched it, thanks so much. But like,
I watched it.
Yeah, but I really was like, I really was tending to react that more at Tristan Tate fans. And that's why all of it also wasn't like, not everything there was like a super like tight, like, premise, conclusion. Like it wasn't like a syllogistic, like super tight argument. Some of the things I was like, okay, guys, like seriously, would you accept this argument in other areas? Kind of like talking more to like the everyman sort of thing. So, yeah. So I hope that I debunked some of those things, but now that you're saying that, I fucking wish I would have just done the appeal to nature in there.
You didn't do it.
Well, I didn't.
I remember once we were talking about things that we always try to do in conversations with people. And I was like, I always try to bring up appeals to nature. And you were like, oh, I didn't even think of that because they're so stupid. So I feel like you hate appeals to nature so much. You kind of forget that it's like a really foundational argument for veganism.
I know. It's, you know what? That is fucking, I will tell you that's fucking it. The argument has never made sense to me on any level when anyone's ever made it. Like, even since I was like a little kid, like people would say like, and obviously not about veganism, but about other stuff. And I'm like, that's fucking dumb. And so like, it's like, it doesn't even like, it's like, I don't even respect the argument enough. Yeah. It's like, and I need to be better about that. That is like that's a blind spot on my part for sure.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you told me before and I didn't do anything about it because now you just fucking reminded me. And I'm like, oh shit.
Well, but honestly, now I realize that I've done that too. I was like, shit, I just left the conversation without addressing to appeals to nature. Damn it.
Yeah.
So I do it too. But on a big platform like this, it should be top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Get that appeal to nature, Joey. Get him on that.
Yeah. Come on.
All right. Let's go.
Well, I don't know why you would give a bunch of money to a dog charity if you didn't care about non-human animals.
I love dogs, but if you wanted to eat your dog, I would not have a problem with you eating your dog.
Sorry, I don't mean to pause it like so soon after. I think this was another really good point in the debate. And I wish that Joey would have stuck on it a little more. Like, because this is the other thing, like, if as a viewer, if you're watching quickly, like maybe you walked out of the room for a minute, maybe you like, you know, maybe you just missed that. Maybe someone said something to you. It's like, this was a good point to stick on. You don't care, but you run a dog charity. You don't care, but you run a dog charity. You know what I mean? It's like, that means you must care about the subjective experience of these animals, you know? Now, I don't know if he actually does, or if like the charities are all like a cover to kind of,
do you think they're like,
like yeah, to like, what is the thing? Like, it's not like greenwashing. I don't even know if it's whitewashing. I don't know what it's called, but there's a thing where you open charities and engage in like charitable spending as a sort of damage control.
As tax evasion?
No, not like a technical thing. It's more like a reputational thing. Like to like clean up, to sort of counterbalance other like reputational like inadequacies, we'll call them, you know, in his case. So like, I don't know if it's for that, but if it's not for that, then obviously he cares about the subjective experience of dogs. And so like, yeah, I wish like,
I feel like it probably is because he and Andrew were just like, we need to look good. People love dogs. Let's give a bunch of money to dogs.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's that implausible that that's what's going on.
Right.
So,
Like, now that you brought that up, like, that could very well be it.
Yeah. So it's like, are we taking him at his word or not or whatever? But like, yeah. But I think, I wish that Joey would have really stuck the landing on this and like kind of hammered this a little more.
Okay, I forgot what happens next, where he loses this thread.
I don't quite remember, but it doesn't get threaded out, or I don't know, stitched together or something. I was going to try to go with that metaphor. I fucked it up though. Okay. All right, let's see.
Would you have a problem with me eating a dog from the charity?
Well, that would be my dog. And I'd have a problem with you coming into my garden and eating from my apple tree, even though they're just apples. They're my apples. That tree's in my garden. So when people say, oh, would you have a problem with me eating your dog? Yes, I'd have a problem with you eating my dog. But there are lots of people all over the world that eat dogs all the time. I'm not going to tell them not to, and I don't care what they do with their dogs.
This is a funny talking point, because we will get to the predator point, like comparing yourself to a predator in nature as well. But I just want to talk about this dog point because you had an interesting back and forth with Elwood's dog meat on Twitter. Should we talk about that?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. So
you see, this is where like he goes into this Elwood's thing, and I think he should have just like kept like, hold on, I just want to make sure I know what you're saying here, Tristan. The only reason you'd care about me going on and like those dogs in the dog charity are because they're your dogs. I mean, this whole thing doesn't make sense. He's like, I only care about those dogs in the dog charity, but the dogs that aren't in the charity yet aren't his dogs. So clearly he cares about them before the point at which they become his dogs. If they're like his dogs in the charity anyway, like this whole thing is nonsense to me.
It's nonsense, but it's very much in line with Tate's persona, right? Yeah. He's like, oh, I value things and stuff and my property and whatnot. And like, I don't care about what people do with their property. You know, it's very much like in line with that whole worldview he's created.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where I do wish that Joey would have pushed more here. They kind of get off on this Elwood's thing.
Like if he had said, what do you think he should have said?
I think he should have been like, well, hold on. I think he kind of should have said maybe some of the things that I just said there. I don't know exactly how he would have said them, but like, well, hold on a second, Tristan. You know, like you only care about those dogs in your dog charity because they're in your charity. And like maybe he would have said yes or no and been like, but those dogs are not in your charity to begin with. Like you get those dogs from somewhere. So like clearly you care about them before they're part of your ownership. So it seems like you do care about those dogs. And then like I would have liked to see him squirm a little with that, like wrestle with that question a little bit, you know. Because the more
what he would have said.
I don't know, but I think he would have deflected. But the more he deflects and the more he squirms, the worse his position looks. This is like kind of about the general vibe you're left with, right? Yeah. And it's like I wanted to see him like squirm a little more on some of these. So.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Yeah, I know. I wish Joey, just from a pure entertainment standpoint, would have gone as aggressive as possible. I don't know if that would have been the best like strategy for veganism, but like purely from a spectator point of view, I would have loved to see it just be like really fucking, you know.
I will say I looked forward to this debate for like 2 months too.
I know, me too.
A little disappointed.
I know. I think my hopes were too high for it. Like
mine too. I also thought it would be announced sooner. I wanted to like. I don't know.
Like,
it was like announced and then it was that day.
Yeah, it was just like, boom, all of a sudden it's up. I was like, oh shit. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how much that was by design too. I don't know. Because it was a little weird. I think Joey even says at one point that he was kind of surprised by it. That Tristan was like, hey, we're going to do this.
That they didn't plan it further in advance. Yeah.
So that also gives Tristan maximum time to prepare and Joey minimum time. So that's like another thing where like you can kind of behind the scenes stack the deck against someone, you know? And I think this is why I shouldn't use that term. I think that this is where I think that Joey probably was like, oh shit, this big guy wants to have me on, and he's saying we have to do it today, so I should do it today. And I think this is one of those cases where Joey could have been like, hey, I'm really busy today. I need like a little bit more. How about next week? You know what I mean? Tate could have made time.
Do you think that would have helped him?
If he had a week to prepare,
yeah,
like specifically for this, I definitely.
I wonder, because I feel like he probably did prepare, and like the stuff that Tate did was not what anyone really expected, you know? So he could have easily prepped for like a completely different debate. Like if I were Joey, I would have prepped really hard on like the health stuff and like maybe some more like kind of political, like don't believe what anyone says or whatever. And that's really not the direction that he went at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Maybe it would have made a difference. Also, I'm being a little speculative here. I don't actually know if that's the way the events happened. But there was a part that it seemed like Joey was kind of like told about it last minute. But I could be wrong about that.
It seems like he would have like announced it on a community post like a few days before if he had known.
Right. To me, that's like, that makes more sense. Like even just to build a little hype for it. Like,
yeah.
And that's another reason why I think it's like kind of weird on Tate's part. Like, didn't want to build any hype for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it felt like, I don't know. Something felt a little shady there to me, but maybe I'm just being like tinfoil hat right now. I don't know. All right, let's go.
I'll actually cover this for 5 seconds first, because someone sent me a link to a fake website that allegedly sells dog meat. It has a bunch of pictures of cute dogs next to what is clearly steak and sausages.
Nice.
And they're saying, we sell this dog meat. And someone sent me this as a joke to troll me. And I've sent them a message saying, hi, do you ship internationally? I'm interested in buying some dog meat to Romania. And I posted a screenshot on the Twitter argument. It was a joke, as in, if someone's selling dog meat, I don't care what they do. But Elwood's Dog Meat, and I kind of wish I hadn't given them the shout out, because they sold the story to the newspaper that I genuinely thought they were a dog meat farm, and I stupidly was trying to buy dog meat because I'm evil. And the newspapers, obviously, which print anything bad about me, printed it. And I was like, for God's sake, I wish I didn't contact those people. It was a joke. I wasn't actually trying to buy dog meat from them. It's not my meat of choice.
What would be the problem with that, though? Because you said you don't have a problem with people eating animals. So
no, I don't have a people do eat dogs. I don't try to shut the farms down. There are dog meat festivals in China. Okay. I'm not going to go to China until the Chinese...
All right, hold on.
Be good in a moment or two. Bear with me. I remember the last question. Is your mic muted? I can't.
You're back on my end, mate.
Good, and you're back here as well.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine. That's wonderful. So, the question that we just finished is, we were talking about the dog meat farm that trolled me and sold the story to the newspaper. And I was saying that I don't particularly care if somebody eats their own dog, and that the dog meat festivals that happen in China, etc., I don't want to go there and stop them from doing it. So I guess why should I? Or why do you?
You got a photographic memory, mate. That was actually very spot on. You held that thought, didn't you?
Absolutely.
So actually, well, it doesn't matter to me whether or not they are my dog or my property or whatever. Like I look at the animal's inherent value. So like, it doesn't matter if that human being is my friend. It would matter more to me if they were my family. Yes, I would attack with violent force if necessary to defend them. But it also matters to me what happens to people I don't know. So in the same case with dogs, if I see someone attacking a dog, being cruel to a dog, then I'm going to probably run up and punch him in the head just as I would if they were my own dog, because I'd be like, what are you doing and what reason do you have to do that? Now, when you talk about other cultures doing something horrible to animals, it doesn't matter to me that...
I just want to pause briefly and say I think that was really solid. Well
really
stated.
Good.
Really
I was
to the
just
point.
thinking that. Yeah, like, that was really good.
And he's not like, he's saying it in a way that's like forceful but not like aggressive, I guess. So
he also threw in a little compliment there, which was nice.
Yeah. I think he did a lot of work. That couple sentences I think did a lot of work. It was really good.
Yeah, definitely.
That it's their culture. It doesn't justify something bad, doing something bad just because it's your culture. There are good things about certain cultures. There are also bad things about certain cultures, and it doesn't morally justify an action just because it's cultural or whatever. So my question to you is, do you only care about, because I asked you about your dog, the dog charity. Not every dog at that charity is your dog. True?
Well, that's true, but I completely finance it, and the dogs are rescued from the streets. And you're saying like doing cruel things to animals, just because I eat meat doesn't mean that I advocate animal cruelty for no reason. You see, I know it's cruel. I know factory farms are cruel. I know where my chickens come from. I know where my beef comes from. I'm not a stupid person. I know I've killed animals myself. I've killed pigs with knives, in fact, on a part of a reality TV show. So I'm not a coward. I know exactly where my food comes from. But to say about animal cruelty for no reason, to add that into the mix, I think is a bit disingenuous, because I'm not talking about kicking dogs. I'm talking about the charity that I run prevents animal cruelty because it prevents animals from being on the street. But that is not the same as people who run dog meat farms raising dogs for meat, because I understand what they're raising those dogs for, and they're perfectly entitled to do that. I could try to reduce cruelty, but I think cruelty is completely justified, completely, when it comes to getting fed. I think that the shark that could bite me in half is totally justified to bite me in half. The shark committed no moral evil, even if it bit me. What am I doing in the ocean anyway?
Yeah, you should stay out of the ocean. I'm a big advocate for staying out of the ocean when the sharks are around, that's for sure. If you get bitten.
Well, saying that's because I'm half black, and black people hate the ocean. Like, I just inherited it from there, I think.
I stay clear of the oceon. But I think what you're talking about here is, so you're making the point, you're saying that cruelty is justified if you're going to...
Yeah.
If you're going to eat the animal, basically, you can do whatever you want to them. Is that what your position is?
No. No, whatever you want. Why would that be my position? I don't think you should cut their arms and legs off while they're alive. I mean, killing something is never going to be not cruel. I genuinely, if somebody was raising an animal for food, let's say a chicken, and cut its wings off when it was alive, I honestly wouldn't care that much about the chicken. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to pretend that I would care. I do think it's unnecessary. I wouldn't do it. But you can't kill something in a non-cruel way. Killing something is always cruel. So the cruelty you have to see cruelty as justifiable if you're going to eat meat. Wouldn't you agree with that at least?
Yeah, so I think here, he's doing the thing of there's no difference between some cruelty and maximum cruelty. You know what I mean? It's like he's kind of dancing. Tristan is kind of dancing between that point.
Well, Tristan's using that typical meat eater line, I hate animal cruelty, but it's fine to eat meat. Piers Morgan does that all the time too.
Yeah. And
it's annoying.
I think this is where you can see the cracks. I see a lot of cracks in Tristan here. And this is why kind of in my video, I said that I do actually think Tristan cares about the suffering of animals. I think it'd be really easy to make the point that he didn't, given
what he says
and everything we kind of know about him. And he says these specific things, but I think there's lots of cracks like this where he says, well, I wouldn't cut the legs off of a chicken for no reason. He's like, 'cause there's no reason. And it's I don't think that I don't think his problem with that is because there's no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because he can see that it's not the right thing to do. Probably.
Right. He can feel that there's something wrong with that. And so he dances back. You'll see this throughout the debate. He dances in and out of that point where he says he doesn't care. But then he's like, but if someone was punching a dog, I would go help them. And then sometimes he says he wouldn't. And it's he's just so back and forth that I'm not, in the end, I think if he truly didn't care, he would have actually held that line tighter in those moments. He would have been like, yeah, you can cut the wings off. I don't care.
Like Destiny does.
Yeah, like Destiny or those fucking, what's it, Jim Bob or whatever. Those who's I would just light a dog on fire. You know
wow.
Yeah, they really lean into it. They're I'm fucking fully in this. And Tristan isn't. And the fact that he isn't makes me think there is part of him that cares. Even if he's potentially a total asshole in every other aspect of his life. I still feel
Yeah, that's Ed's favorite way to expose hypocrisy, I feel is to test people on things like that and then be well, if you say no, then there is hypocrisy there, whether you're acknowledging it or not. That's how Ed wins most of his debates.
Yeah. So I did and here Joey is saying that he's well, why would you care then? Why would you care? And he's so I think he does, but Tristan talks very fast and bounces to new subjects pretty quickly. And so I think it can get it gets washed over very quickly in the debate.
That's part of the reason why I said earlier that Joey should focus less on Tristan is because he's so slippery and just switching around so much. It's if you focus on him too much, he's just going to move to a different position. And it's it makes it impossible kind of.
Yeah, I think this is what I'm kind of saying. If you're debating on a platform with a person who's constantly shifting around, I think sometimes it might even be smart to be okay, 'cause it kind of sounded like you were saying this. And if you're no, and you can be okay, sorry, because if you were saying that would be a bad argument because X, Y, Z. Now I know you're not saying that, but I know some people do. So just so we can kind of put a pin in that. You know what I mean? And so you can address it. You can say, I'm also not straw manning you. I just want to kind of address this in case that's what you were saying and in case other people maybe heard that from you. And then just kind of move on. And then you can pick apart all those arguments without the person sort of distracting by saying, well, I wasn't saying that. Yeah. And without feeling attacked. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been cool. Move. Maybe. But yeah. All right. My endurance is dwindling. Let's go.
Well, there's something called the welfare movement, and there's two sides of this story here. There's obviously factory farming, which most people agree is bad, but they mostly support it through their consumer habits. Do you think factory farming is bad?
No. I think it's a miracle that we can have 7 billion, 8 billion people on a planet and we can all feed them. And anywhere in the world I go, anywhere on earth I go, if I want a steak or a chicken breast or some eggs, I can get hold of them. I think the food supply chain that humans have built and constructed in order to raise this great civilization is incredible. And I know that involves factory farms. So no, I don't think factory farms are unjustifiable in any way. Are they cruel? Maybe. But I don't care. I think it's an amazing feat of human ingenuity.
Okay, I think I'm getting closer here to your position here. I'm
sorry, I got to pause it again. I apologize, people. I just think here the question is just to be because clearly he didn't answer the question in the way the question was meant. I think Joey should have just been okay, imagine you have a crop system. It's not animals. Plants, you can distribute it everywhere. Animals, you can distribute it everywhere. So in both cases, the whole world is fed. The food is distributed. do you have a preference between, or do you think one of those is more cruel than the other? Like, because that's kind of more like what he was asking with factory farming.
Wait, what did Joey ask? I forget.
So he was like, well, are you cool with factory farming? And Tristan was like,
okay,
of course.
I was like, yes, because of this system we
because
created.
It's amazing. Like, he's talking about the logistics of it are amazing. But clearly when Joey's asking to like factory, he's not saying,
like
are the logistics impressive? like the logistics of like fucking Nazi concentration camps were probably impressive. They were very efficient.
They killed many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if someone was like, yeah, I mean, do you like Nazi concentration? I wouldn't be like, well, the logistics were great. So, I mean, we're not talking about, I just want to make sure everyone knows that the logistics were good, right? Okay, now we can move on and talk to this. So, yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would have gone over my head probably. I would have just, because I think Joey's caught off guard here, and I would have been as well. I've been like, whoa, like people don't usually say that, you know, most time. Like 9 out of 10 times you're talking to people, they don't like factory farming.
Yeah. I would say even more than 9 out of 10. I mean, it's like, I don't think I've heard a single person be like, yeah, factory. Like, this is the first time I've heard someone say factory farming is good. Yeah, I have not heard that before.
Oh, I've heard it.
Okay.
A few times. Yeah.
Oh, man,
maybe like 9.5 out of 10 they're against it.
Damn. That is crazy to me. Yeah, I haven't run into that.
Yeah. You got to do more outreach.
I know. I haven't been doing much outreach recently. I got to get back out.
Yeah.
there.
When's the last time you did it?
It's been a while. I have a couple of videos I can put up from like before.
Oh, fun.
But from like a long time, because there's one that I didn't handle very well, this outreach, and I was like hesitant to put it up, but I'm like, I should put it up and explain like what I think went wrong. But it's definitely one where I get spicier with a person. Like I get kind of passive aggressive with them at the end.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
they probably deserved it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but the problem is it's an interesting one too, because I leaned a little too hard into animal suffering and not enough into animal rights, and it allowed them to keep like getting into this out of like, because they were like, well, I only buy from like local farms, and I was like,
right.
Yeah, and so they just kept going there, and I'm like, okay, you don't do that, and they're like, I run a restaurant, and that's the only food I eat, and they kept, it's like, seriously, like that's the only, but
that's why I don't even call people out on that, because they can just lie so easily.
Yeah. I asked her, it's funny, in the thing I was like, okay, what's the farm called? I'll look into it, and she's like, well, I don't want to say that, and I'm like, oh
yeah, they never want to say.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
If you're so proud of it, then why don't you want to tell me?
Yeah, because then, I mean, this is going to be on YouTube. More people will be able to get these ethically raised animals.
Which you're in favor of.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Alrighty, let's go.
Think but just forgive me here if I don't want to come across as rude or anything like that. But before I thought you said, so you said factory farming is cruel.
Yeah, and cruelty can be justified.
Now you're saying cruelty can be justified if you're going to eat the animal. Is what your position is, yeah?
Yeah.
Let's just unpack it, because if we can't even agree that being cruel to animals is bad, then we won't really have to talk about animal rights, which is.
I like. Sorry, I'm going to keep pausing. I like how he goes. Yeah. It's like, because he's like, he knows that's what he basically just said, but he knows it's bullshit, so he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he doesn't want to commit.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm gonna get wrecked on this point, so yeah.
So then he can be like, well, I was just saying that to keep this discussion going.
Yeah.
What I advocate for the rights of the animal, their right to life. Even if you say, if you shot a human in the back of the head, that's murder. You've basically taken away their right to exist. You violated their rights, and it doesn't matter if
to a human, yes.
If you cause them suffering or not, shooting someone in the head if they didn't feel it is murder. Yeah.
Shooting a person in the head is murder, yeah. Thou shalt not kill. Okay.
And you violated their human rights, haven't you? You violated their right to life, essentially, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, the Human Rights Act is a very real thing. There was no Human Rights Act until the 1960s, is it? I think the European Union came up with it. But no, I don't think that animals get the same rights as humans. No way. Absolutely not. Okay.
Well, what I'm saying is we don't even really need to talk about animal rights right now. We can just talk about animal cruelty, which is different. It's their welfare, which is, like the people that believe you can be kind to an animal before you kill them. But you're taking a position that factory farming is like a great invention, and it's like amazing that we can feed 8 billion people 80 billion animals that suffer in these horrible sheds.
Yes.
Right. And because I'm actually, I don't know if you know about this, but I investigate these farms constantly in the UK. We do a lot of investigation and expos.
I saw your video about the pigs in gas chambers.
There we go. So that's free range pigs go to this gas chamber.
So do I think that's wrong?
Do you think it's wrong that they suffer for 30 seconds to a minute in a dungeon filled with gas and in their own feces, screaming for mercy?
I know. I actually don't. I don't care at all. I think that there's no kind way of killing something, and killing something is necessary to keep up the meat production of the world. So I think it's perfectly fine. I obviously, it'd be nice if you could click your fingers and they just completely drop out of consciousness. If there's a way of killing things that was 100% harmless or pleasurable, that would be preferable, I guess. But there isn't. I don't want to be killed. Do you?
See, I think that was the biggest mask drop there. because he basically just says like, yeah, if they didn't suffer, it would be better. And in fact, and he even goes a step further, which is, I haven't even heard people ever say this really, like if you could kill them in a way that was pleasurable. So
I've never heard someone say that either.
Yeah, it's like, so he's admitting that like their subjective experience matters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Now people are saying in the chat, they're like, you're misreading Tate. He is just a psychopath. And he could be. Like, I just want to point out, like, it's totally possible he is just like a sociopath.
Maybe. I have a feeling he's not.
I was not left with that impression, honestly, after watching this. I expected to be left with more of an impression like that he was more sociopathic. And after watching this, I was less on board with that, weirdly.
What changed your mind?
A couple of these things like this, I think, where I've seen other people, like I said, like I've seen Jim Bob and Destiny and who's that other guy? I can't remember what his name is on that same like podcast. And I've seen all of them lean hard into that. And even when people do that, I'm a little skeptical, but some of them I'm like, I don't know. This actually seems legit.
I mean, like, I don't think Destiny's like a sociopath.
No. Yeah, I don't. Destiny's foolish. There's like videos of him. I've said my piece on Destiny a few times. Like I've seen
being
Destiny
nice to animals.
Yeah, and more than just being nice, like being like very empathetic and like it's like it's such horse shit.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't believe it with him. But yeah, Tate I think is more borderline for me. But like I think after watching this, I do lean towards the fact that like let me put it this way. I have gone through points in my life when I was a real motherfucker. Like I was
same.
Like I was an asshole. You know what I mean?
Me too.
And I guess in those times you could say that I didn't care, but I don't like, it's kind of true that I didn't care, but it was like, there was this kernel of caring that like just needed to kind of like germinate within me. And I think a psychopath doesn't even have that kernel. And to me, I feel like there's something, even if he's like 99% an asshole, I do feel like there's like a little kernel there that could be like tended to and grown. That's kind of what I mean when I say it anyway.
Well, sociopathy is a spectrum too.
Yeah.
So like maybe he's somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But he's not. Like I would say Andrew's probably more sociopathic than Tristan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But
yeah, that's my impression. That's my impression.
Yeah. I want to hear more about you being an asshole, but maybe we shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when I'd be ready to tell those stories, man.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, there was a while where I was just like, I was like, fuck everyone else. It's me time, baby. Like,
Hell yeah. That's funny. I had a phase where like I was just watching It's Always Sunny like all the time, and they were like my idols.
You were like, this is what I want to aspire to be.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, they just like own a bar, and that's all they do. That's so cool.
That's funny. All right, let's keep going.
Let's do it.
No, I don't want to be murdered. I don't want to suffer in a gas chamber.
But I like to eat bacon, and somebody has to kill the pigs. But it's a reality of eating meat.
But it is a reality. I mean, but to say you don't care at all about these animals suffering to death, like in this gas chamber, seems a bit like you're lacking empathy that most of the population would have.
I mean, it's a pig. It was raised for a reason. And also, my position is this on pigs and cows and dogs, on all these things. There's not a single farm animal, almost. There's not a single farm animal which exists exactly as it is on the farm out in nature. All of these things were produced by humans. Pigs in nature, I've seen them. They're short and fucking muscly and brown and hairy, and they've got tusks, and they're fast, and they're dangerous. The big, fat, lazy pink pigs exist because we bred them to be that way. Every single form of cattle, every single form is descendant of the European oryx, which has been extinct for over 400-something years. Humans have created these animals through selective breeding. In fact, if you want to make an argument not to eat dogs, I'd understand it a bit more than cows and pigs, because dogs were selectively bred by people, but not for food. Dogs were selectively bred by people to be hunters and to be retrievers. That's why they still have these names today. But if someone wants to eat a dog, I still don't care. And you have to understand, and everyone has to understand, that all these pigs weren't just wandering around the countryside when we decided to show up and kill them. They were specifically bred for that purpose. That's why they get so fat so fast. That's why you can feed them almost anything and they put on body mass. So yeah, the unfortunate last 30 seconds of a pig's life where it suffers in a gas chamber is completely fine with me. It really is, because that's how it goes from farm to table. There's no happy way of doing it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like for me, if they didn't suffer in a gas chamber, it's wrong to murder them. Like for me, similar to murdering a human being. But we can talk about.
So how should we murder them?
Well, I don't think we should murder them. I don't think it's morally justifiable, because I've been vegan for 10 years and haven't had to stab an animal in the throat yet. Since I've been vegan.
I stabbed it in the chest.
So okay, this we're not going to get very far. I feel like we're just going to keep on this. I think that at this point, I start to get a little weird about Joey's demeanor, because up until this point, I feel like he's been kind of like talking. Sort of like assertively, concisely, whatever. And like at this point, he seems to kind of like he like starts being like a little more soft spoken, a little more like, oh, well, like I wouldn't do that if like I wasn't like blah, blah, blah. And it like, I don't know what happened or why he's doing that. If he's like trying to like overcompensate and not seem aggressive, but it's like a weird tonal change to me. And I think this is like, this
Where
is probably
it goes downhill.
Yeah, this is my other big critique of the debate is that like, I don't know what word to use here. Joey, he seems kind of like subdued. I wouldn't go as far to necessarily say submissive, but like I'm starting to get like that vibe a little more from him in some of these moments. And I don't, it almost seems like he like got tired out of nowhere or something. Like I can't quite figure it out, but it's like, this is where like the general impression, like even if everything he says is like logically coherent or like morally better or whatever, it's like the general impression he gives at this point, I feel like it almost gives the impression that he's like losing the debate is what I read from it. And so I feel like something happens here that I don't like.
I wonder what it is specifically, because there wasn't like a specific moment that I feel like it should have shifted, you know?
Yeah, that's what I don't get either. It's like I don't know. His tone and demeanor just feel like they shift here, and I think it ends up being for the worse.
One interesting thing is that like how Tate really does throw out so many arguments within one thing. Like at this, they're talking about like killing and suffering, and then he throws in they're bred for this. So that's like another thing that you have to deal with. Maybe Joey is kind of just thinking of like all the things he has to address, or maybe he gets a little like out of the moment. Or caught up in his head or something.
Yeah, because he's just like gish galloping the whole time, and it's like, I think that's another thing is when someone starts gish galloping like that, it's another like
gish galloping.
Yeah, that's gish galloping. It's like it's a debate. It's actually like they don't like allow it in formal debates, but it's doing that. It's like when you're not like responding concisely, like okay, here's my point, here's your point. You're like, oh well, this, and you just like name like 5 things in a row, and then because it gives the impression to the audience that like, oh, they have a lot of good reasons for this, and then you as the responder can't like respond to all of them quickly enough. This is like Brandolini's law, right? Where like it takes like whatever exponentially more time to put out a fire than to start it. And so like it's clearly a rhetorical technique, but it's like one of those things where if you don't know about it, to the untrained eye, you're like, oh wow, that person's like really crushing this debate. But to the trained eye, like to me, I'm like, oh, he must really feel like he's losing right now, which is why he's like spiraling.
He's throwing out so much shit.
Yeah, so I think a lot of these debates kind of like flip-flop depending on if you know to look for these things or not. You know, something that would look strong to one person looks weak to me. And but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so glad I watched this with my parents too, because I could see like what looked strong to them. And they said, yeah, Tate looked stronger.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like that's like. And I bet if you asked them like to like list the arguments that Joey gave, I bet my guess is they couldn't list most of them. If you were to ask them.
Probably not. I'll probably ask them after this.
You should.
But then the other thing, I feel like I wanted to say something else. Oh yeah, so one thing that happens to me a lot in debates is like if I feel like I've been going in circles with someone for a while, or if I feel like they really just like don't care, or like I'm sick of talking to them, I will kind of mentally check out. And maybe that's what's going on with Joey. Like one of the things, like I do end conversations when people tell me they don't care, typically on the streets. I know Joey couldn't like end this conversation here, but it's hard. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So he can just be frustrated.
That is a good point too. Like, because if someone tells you I don't care, like sometimes it is like, okay, well, this is a numbers game, like on to the next. You know?
Yeah,
and
I literally have a line for that. I say, oh, you know, it's I'm sorry to hear you don't care. I'm going to try to connect with people who do care about animals right now. And then I walk away. Like that's what I say. Because you're right, it is a numbers game, and got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I like that too, because I feel like I actually really like that, because it's like very like to the point. Like they can't really get mad at it, but I feel like that line alone will leave them with like a bit of like lingering like.
Yeah, it's a little insulting.
Yeah, but if they just said it, they also can't deny it a second later.
Right.
They're like, oh, that's fine. Well, if you don't care about animals, I like to talk to people who do care about animals.
Yeah, and then I'm also saying like other people care about animals, therefore it's good to care about animals. It's implied.
Yeah, you're right. There's like a subtle like social proofing thing there that like you're not like most people. You're weird. You're the weird one.
Yeah,
you know
you
what
suck.
I mean? That's funny. Okay, so Yeah, I want to read something that Louis Guido said here,
Okay.
and I want to get your opinion on it because we chatted about this a little bit before the debate. He says Joey was too starstruck, as Joey during and after the debate praised Tristan and made a huge point of the size of Tristan's audience. Joey's cucking was mostly starstruck syndrome, in my opinion. What do we
Possible.
What
It's
do we
possible.
think about that?
I mean, it's kind of weird to think about Joey being that starstruck by Tristan Tate, but I guess it's possible, right? I mean, there were kind of signs there. But then, oh yeah, we were talking about this before, how Joey's been on like Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan has a way bigger audience than Tate, and Joey's never starstruck there, so
Yeah.
it would be a little odd.
Yeah, I think that's I think there's pros and cons in favor of this argument. First off, I don't want to believe this argument. I really hope this argument is not true. And like you said, like he's been on bigger audiences and he didn't seem starstruck by Piers Morgan. So, however, I again, like some of these things I can't give like 10 points of proof for that would like be in a court of law. But I was at times like that what Lewis is expressing, there were at times when I also had that same feeling watching the debate.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
is he starstruck right now by Tate or his audience or something? Like, he did make a point a few times. Be like, thanks, man. I'm really appreciative that, you let me come on. You have a huge audience. You didn't have to let me come on. And again, that could just be strategy of like, you gotta lick Tate's balls a little bit to get him like,
When
on your
people
side,
have
but-
huge egos like Tate, it's good to stroke that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I think it could have just been that, but I will say that, yeah, in being fully candid here, I also at times during the debate felt like in my heart, I felt that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I hope it's not the case. I think there's reasons to believe it wasn't the case, but yeah, it's something interesting to think about.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
For the record.
I've seen you. I know that you're on shipwrecked and you're advocating for killing the animals on the island.
I did kill them.
Now, you're not on an island now. You're actually multi-millionaire and you can eat whatever you want. You got personal
indeed.
chefs, but you'll still choose to. You don't need to eat animals, do you? Do you believe you need to, or you just said that Stacey you want to?
Yeah, well, I want to, and I understand that in today's society with supermarkets and all the miracles that you guys talk about, that you can exist on a vegan diet. Yeah, but so that means I could, right? Because I live in the 21st century. I live here in a first world country with supermarkets and food you can buy everywhere. So yeah, I'm not one of the Maasai people of Africa. I'm not a hunter gatherer. I'm not one of the people who lives in southern Gujarat in India who has to depend on fish. I understand I have a choice of what I can eat. I understand that. And I eat meat, and that's the way it is. I like meat, and I don't see anything wrong with meat, and I don't care that the animals have to die because it's just an unfortunate part of being part of the food chain. Just as a shark or a crocodile or a polar bear wouldn't care if it was eating me or my child. It wouldn't care. Yeah. And as much as I'd be a bad parent if I let my daughter get near a polar bear, I could not argue the polar bear did anything morally wrong by eating a person. I don't think you can.
Would you shoot the polar bear to protect your daughter?
I'd shoot a polar bear to eat it, given half a chance.
Yeah, but I'm saying, would you shoot? You obviously, if a human was about to be eaten by like a polar bear, would you shoot the polar bear to protect the human being? Say you didn't know the human.
I'd shoot a human to protect another human in the right circumstances.
Me too.
People do it all the time.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. 100%. I would use lethal force to protect someone's life.
Absolutely.
100%.
Someone is
I'm
a
not against
person.
killing. I'm not against killing, like per se. If it can be, I believe killing can be justified in certain situations, right?
Why? How
what
can
I am
you...
against.
No, continue.
What
sorry.
I am against is I'm just against innocent beings being enslaved and decapitated so I can eat a piece of their body. That there I don't think is justified. So there's a difference between justifiable like killing to protect self-defense, things like this, and unjustifiable killing for a bacon sandwich, a bit of taste pleasure or whatever.
I don't make that difference at all. I can't make that distinction, and I certainly don't put animal lives and human lives on the exact same plane of importance at all. Like a lot of do you think that pigs and cows are as important as people? Do you feel their lives are worth as much as a person's life?
Well, what we could do is we could do a little. We could play. It's like a logical consistency test, and it's for this exact topic what you're bringing up right now.
Is it a word trap? I'm ready if it is. But go ahead.
It's not a word trap. It's just basically we share a common like morally relevant trait with animals, and it's our conscious experience. Now, you could say that we have more intelligence in animals, of course. Like, especially we could use a pig for example. Pigs are more intelligent than dogs. Okay, we know that scientifically. Or there's
So before we get too far into this. This is another point when he was like, do you think they're exactly the same? I feel like there's just a very quick way to dispatch that. Like, vegans, you don't have to think they're exactly the same. Some vegans think that their value is the same. Some vegans don't. You just have to value them more. You just think they have to have more value than sandwich or whatever the sort of line is there. And like, I feel like that was a really important part because people say this all the time. Another layup for like a common anti-vegan argument to just like slam dunk, debunk it right there. And instead, he kind of takes the circuitous route to go to NTT.
Justified. Yeah. Well,
and then he talked about the polar bear too. It was kind of confusing to me.
that was like another chance to address appeal to nature.
Yeah.
And he didn't. That's the third time,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, unless there's more, that Tate's brought that up.
Yep.
So yeah, that's something you really got to address.
Yeah. I think
also, I want to let everyone know this is not actually beer; it's iced coffee, just in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the consistent theme. The biggest theme for me is, again, why I made the video I made, and now I wish I would have like addressed a couple more points. But it was because to me, what this was a huge chance for a bunch of people to see like the 5 most common anti-vegan arguments just get fucking dunked on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if they weren't the ones that like Tristan was bringing up, just like dunk on those and like let people know that's not like, you know, a thing. Well, and he brings up a couple of them here, so.
I was thinking that Joey probably didn't address the animals being equal, because I think he does think that animals and humans all have the same value, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah. So maybe that's why he didn't address that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. I think that's why I always answer it in the way of like some vegans do, some vegans don't.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Like, you as a person don't have to still think it's wrong to kill animals
to do this to animals. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I value them the same. I think it's like also pointless. Like, who cares what lives I value more? Like, that's not what is relevant to how beings should be treated.
Yeah. So see, this is another thing. This is why the like I don't care defense. And this, I don't want to get too much into like subjectivism and objective like morality and stuff, but it just, when someone's like, I don't care about that, I'm like, so
that's not what matters here. Yeah. Your feelings are not what matter.
Yeah, like if I was like, yeah, I don't have like an emotional reaction when someone like stabs someone with green eyes, and I'm like, so I guess that it's okay to stab people with green eyes. Like,
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like a person can even recognize that in themselves. Like, if I had like this like. If I had a very specific, like a hyper specific, like type of sociopathy, like green eye sociopathy, like if someone has green eyes, I just like
you just don't care about them.
I just don't care about that person. Even if I had that emotional response, I could still recognize that like that person cares. And so like me not having, now again, it depends on what he means by doesn't care here. And you could mean different things, but like, I think the colloquial use of this, when someone says they don't care, what they mean is I'm not having an emotional reaction to that. I'm not like moved by like my emotions to think I should do something about that. And so that's why like when colloquially, when someone says I don't care, it's just like, this is like not even a response to me. But yeah. But that I imagine will set off stuff in the comments. Someone said a couple other things here that I think were interesting that we wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Hold on. Someone said Joey was nervous. I can't imagine that would be the case. That would be really hard for me to believe that, again, unless the Starstruck hypothesis is correct, in which case then I could see him being nervous. But like, why would he be starstruck by Tate? Like, I don't know.
I mean, I get nervous like all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know Joey's relationship with being nervous.
Yeah.
But I would definitely be nervous in this situation.
I would be too, because the audience is so big. But like,
right, yeah.
But he's been on Piers Morgan and like other huge like news things. That's what I don't get. Like, why would he be nervous here?
Well, sometimes, I mean, it's very possible he has been really nervous on Piers. You know, it's hard to tell how nervous someone is just by watching. Like, I'll be really nervous and give a presentation, and people will be like, "Oh my God, you didn't seem nervous at all." I'll be like, "Oh well, I was actually dying inside." So yeah, there's really like, it's hard to tell, you know.
That's a good point. And then there was something else that I also thought about. I wanted to bring up here. Chris McGowan says, "I think Tristan disarmed him by not making a debate. Joey likes to fight. He thrives on pushback. That's why Joey wasn't Joey." Also,
that's Tristan, a good point.
Yeah, because he came in and because they were saying, "Oh, this is a discussion, not a debate," but then Tate, the way Tate talked through most of this was as if he was debating, not as if he was just having a discussion, to my mind. And so I think that's another like asymmetry where like Joey kept trying to keep it more discussion-y, whereas Tate said it was going to be a discussion, but then his behavior struck me as very debatey. And so I think it created like an asymmetry where it looked like, you know, again,
like Joey was doing a discussion and Tate was doing a debate.
Yeah. So I think I think that definitely could have played into this a little bit here.
Yeah.
All right. How much more? Maybe 10 minutes more, because I think it starts
10 minutes more. Okay.
Well,
what time do you have to do? Don't you have plans or something?
I'm going to see Barbie later tonight.
Oh, fun! I'm jealous. I want to see it.
Yeah, so it was
good.
like me and three other people, and I was like we voted, and I voted for Oppenheimer, and they voted for Barbie. So I was like, whatever. I mean, I'm sure they're both going to be good, but like I wanted to see Oppenheimer more. But whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds boring, but I get bored easily. My parents saw it; they liked it.
Oh, nice. Okay. But they also liked this debate with Joey, and they thought Tristan won. So now
yeah, we can't trust them. We can't trust them.
Yeah, your dad's like already a part of Hustlers University, right?
Oh
so.
Yeah, he's all about it. He was just really impressed with Tristan. It's weird. It's like since then he's been wanting to watch debates and stuff. Like this got my parents really interested in the whole debate culture, which is crazy to me. But that's fun.
Crazy. Show them some more Joey Carbstrong debates, man. Those are like...
I showed them some Destiny stuff.
Oh God!
Because I was like, Destiny's like the debate guy, you know.
He's
like I don't want them
lord.
to only see vegan debates. I want them to see like other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
They're at least comparable, and in some studies do better. In some studies, dogs do better, but they're about on par or better in certain studies. But like, let's say we have is there something about animals, right? When you look at, say, a pig, is there something about that pig?
One thing I want to point out.
I don't think.
Sorry. Yeah.
There are a couple things that Tristan Tate is doing right now that are like subtle ways to just kind of like get under Joey's skin. Mm-hmm. The first was talking about how he stabbed the pig.
Yeah.
And this, like, they're delicious. Like, these are things meat eaters do to just kind of like try to get at you.
Mm-hmm.
That I've noticed people do a lot on the street. I like to call them out on it. I think that's generally good to say, like, are you trying to hurt my feelings?
Mm-hmm.
But
I like that. Yeah,
obviously that's not necessary.
Yeah, I'm always up in the air whether to say things like that or not. One thing I like to say too is like sort of even more passive aggressive, is like, are you okay? Are you all right?
Oh yeah, that's good.
like, are you still doing okay emotionally? You know, like when they say something like that, it's like, okay, like, and don't even say they seem triggered, because then they're definitely gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Why? I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, people get mad when you call them triggered.
Yeah, yeah. So like, sometimes you can just ask people if they're okay, and then like, just like asking them to hurt the feelings, that'll kind of stop them from like doing some bullshit, you know, because then they know you're gonna like get on them for it.
Yeah. Well, I like that. Are you trying to hurt my feelings for a couple reasons? Like, it implies that they're not, because they're not. And also, like, are you trying to be an asshole? Kind of in like a nicer way to say that. So it's like a little less passive aggressive.
Yeah. And they also can't say, like, they're sort of like stuck to saying no.
Yeah. They can't
because
say
what if they say, yes, I am.
So douchey.
I'm very immature and I was trying to hurt your feelings.
And it makes them reflect a lot of the time too.
Yeah. That's good.
You would agree with putting human beings in gas chambers to eat them for bacon, yeah? You make
Well,
a distinction.
well, of course I wouldn't. Why would I want to eat a human being? In fact, if you give me 60 seconds, let me tell you something that humans and animals have in common. It's a very basic concept that almost every animal in the world has in common, besides like octopus and a few others. It's called the preservation of one's own species. So if you take a piranha, a tiny little angry fish with a brain the size of a pea, you put any piece of meat or a human or a horse or a dog or a pig into that pond and it's bleeding, the piranha's going to rip it apart. But piranhas don't eat other piranhas. No species survives if it does. The preservation of one's own species is more important than the preservation of other species. That's why lions don't hunt and eat other lions. That's why they eat other things. So if you want to talk about traits that we have in common, then I as a human saying,
nonsense.
Screw the pig, I'm going to eat him, and I'm not going to kill and eat other humans. There's something that we have in common with every other species. Because I'm not interested in killing or eating humans, and I don't think killing humans is right almost ever. There's almost no justifiable reason to murder somebody or to be cruel to somebody. But pigs, I simply don't care about humans.
The human species murder each other all the time.
I know, but I don't.
Humans are some of the most sick evil animal on earth. I mean, we find the most creative ways to torture and murder each other. We murder each other en masse, murder children. Human beings are not some amazing species, moral species. I mean, we created morality. We can act morally.
God created morality, my friend, and humans know it's wrong. And if a human doesn't know it's wrong, then we can argue that there's something wrong with that human. He is a defective person.
I just would like to stick, if we may, I would like to stick on this point about humans and animals.
What the fuck kind of lighter is that? Is that lighter like a beer can or something?
Wait,
let me see. I don't know if I can like go back and like, hold on.
Because my dad has this insane cigar lighter. It's like really weird.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna play it again. It is like
created morality. We can act morally.
Yeah, it's like,
morality, my friend.
It looks like it's like the size of a.
And if a human doesn't know it's wrong, then we can argue that there's something wrong with that human. He is a defective person.
I just would like to stick, if we can,
It looks like he's lighting with a beer can. What is that?
Humans and animals. You have a separator here. You wouldn't want to see humans factory farmed and put in these places. So there's got to be a trait that's different. And now, are you saying that the trait that separates humans and animals, it's like a morally relevant trait that we possess that the animals do not possess?
Yeah, it's that they're not humans. I care about the preservation of my own species because I'm not a psychopath. Whereas a pig is not human, and I'm not interested in the preservation of pigs.
What do you mean by species? Like, what do you mean by human? We are human. Is it something about our DNA or something like that? A multitude of factors. Is it because we are more intelligent and it's our DNA? I just want to find out what these differences are.
Well, as somebody who doesn't believe in God, I'll speak in your language. Because if somebody who doesn't believe in God, they will say that every species evolved independently in and of itself, and humans are, yeah, it is our DNA. It's the fact that I can mate with another human and create another human. Everyone knows what a human is, but I would say a human is made in the image of God. That's what I would say. And a pig is not made in the image of God. It certainly is not made in the image of God. Neither is a cow. In fact, cows and pigs are made in the image of what humans made them into. So as a religious person, there's no argument you could possibly give me to see any lower life form or any animal besides a human as equal to a human, because animals aren't made in the image of God.
So if there were a species of human beings that look exactly like us, were made in God's image, and they shared like all of our morally relevant traits, like the consciousness experience, they could experience the same level and depth of suffering as us, except they weren't made in the image of God, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between being like, so we were made in the image of God, and there's a group that aren't. Let's just say they evolved separately from us.
Sure. So,
is it okay? One second, let me finish my point and then I'll let you go. But I was just wondering, is it okay to do to them what we do to animals because they're not made in the image of God, and you wouldn't be able to tell us apart, really?
If I'm correct, isn't an octopus an insanely intelligent animal with a very complicated nervous system that feels pain and emotions just like humans do? Am I correct in that? I think that's true.
Yeah.
They're also delicious, and I don't care about an octopus. So if that answers your question, then that answers your question.
Well, it doesn't really. I'm just trying to figure out. So basically, because humans are made in the image of God,
yeah,
right? We can't do to humans what we do to animals.
Nope. Because the commandments of God, when they say "Thou shalt not kill," talks about other human beings. It does not speak about animals.
It doesn't say that. It says "Thou shalt not murder," doesn't it? "Thou shalt not kill." It doesn't say "Thou shalt not."
Well, it says "Thou shalt not kill," but then in Leviticus chapter 11, it tells you which animals you can eat and which animals you can't, and the Islamic holy book tells you exactly how to slaughter them and which animals you can eat and which animals you can't.
I have so many things to say. Like, this is one reason why, like, going into like the Bible and what the Bible says, because everyone then citing a Bible verse, everyone has some counter Bible verse, and then everyone like has an interpretation of the Bible verse. Like, going into like all of like the minutia of the Bible, I feel like is not, especially with someone who like I guess he's a Christian. I was very surprised to hear that in general.
He's Christian, but Andrew just converted to Islam, right?
Yeah, I was just surprised to hear either of them is like religious in any sort of like meaningful capacity. Like, I just assumed they were like maybe religious in a nominal capacity, like, oh yeah, I believe in God, I'm a Christian, but like couldn't cite anything in the Bible. I was very surprised that like he was that into it, but that's I think there's a lot more to talk about with everything. What do you want to say about just what all happened there? Because I have a lot to say.
That was a lot. So why don't you start?
So like, okay, this is, I think, okay, he tries NTT here. For anyone who is still in the dark about this, that's name the trait. It's a very common vegan argument, especially in like sort of debate bro circles. NTT is a pretty big thing. Also, I'm not using the word debate bro pejoratively. I just use it descriptively. As someone who feels like a little bit like an inner debate bro. Yeah. So the first thing is, let's not address NTT. Let's talk about NTT with respect to like image of God. This is like, the image of God is such like an unclear thing. Like what does that actually mean? Because he's saying, well, like a human made them or someone else made the humans. And so like they weren't made in God's image. But like, even as a non-religious person, I can still see how I would say that is made in God's image, because if other humans are made in God's image and I make something that looks like them, doesn't that still seem like God's image? Like, I can see ways to interpret that like just, especially the person who is going to be arguing against it is not going to see like how that's possible or different or like what that even means. And so like, I think just like even what the image of God means, like you really need clarification on what they're even talking about before you go down this road. Because it just implodes into this like,
so he should have defined image of God before using image of God as the trait.
Right. He should have been like, I really need to know like what you mean by that. And then kind of like gone down a thing. But again, I think NTT works better in different scenarios. I think on the religious front, it's kind of a harder sell personally.
Well, Tate brought up religion again, right? Like Joey brought up name the trait before religion.
He
didn't know it was going to go there.
Oh, was it the opposite? Okay, maybe I missed that. Maybe I thought it was
think
before.
So. I think he like brought up, I don't know, it could have been before.
It's fine either way. I don't think NTT tends to work well in that scenario. I think,
you mean with religious people in general?
Or I think on the topic of religion, NTT is more awkward than it is in other scenarios. And not that logically in like the dialogue tree that it doesn't work. But I'm not talking about does it work if you're talking to a computer program. I'm talking about does it work if you're talking to a human being.
A human being who has a big ego.
Yes.
And is slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah, name the trait. A lot of people are saying that it like always works. That's not been my experience with it. A lot of times when I try it on the street, either people just like can't understand it, like maybe they're not smart enough, or they just say, "Oh, species," and that's it. And then like, "Oh, you explain speciesism," but like that's still like the trait they use. Like, where do you really go from there? You can say like, "What is it about being a human?" But they already gave you the trait, which is species.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, name the trait in general. I think there's another problem, and you and me talked about this. And whether this is just like a lack of familiarity with argumentation, which Tristan might have, or like just a intelligence thing, I don't know. But like Tate also, to me, it doesn't. I've heard someone else say like Tate totally understood name the trait and was like handling it in like a philosophically robust way. And I just like, that was not the impression I got.
I don't think so.
I just got that he wasn't, to me, it felt like he wasn't even tracking the argument. And I think that's sometimes the problem with name the trait is like, because we know it so well and because we're in those spaces. And again, I think a lot of people who come into like debate bro spaces tend to be like more intelligent people and who are also like into debating. But like, yeah, when used on the street, I have not found NTT to be good with the common man. Like, I just have not found it to be the person doesn't seem persuaded. They oftentimes seem confused.
And it reinforces the idea more that like that vegans think humans and animals are the same, which isn't necessarily like relevant.
Yeah, I think there's another like almost rhetorical emotional thing that I don't like about NTT, and that's like, in a situation where you're talking to like an everyday person, and it's that like there's this quote from Benjamin Franklin, and it's like I think it's like man is such a reasonable creature, for he can find a reason for everything he does. And I think what you're asking them to do is you're like asking them to find an excuse that it's okay. And like your brain can always continue to find excuses, even as you keep going down this route. Like if you're determined, people can keep finding like, I mean, this is kind of what Destiny does, right? He keeps saying, well, it's humanness. And then people are like, well, what about like, Neanderthals or something, or like, and he's like, there's a distinct thing that holistically, when you combine everything together, results in humanness. And like, it gets into this like very like weird abstract territory. And it's why like, so in some of my videos, I start before they know we're talking about veganism. I ask the series of 4 questions and I say like, do you think it's okay to like punch a human in the head? And they're like, no. And I'm like, do you think it's okay to punch a pillow? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, do you think it's okay to punch a dog? They say no. And I say, well, do you think it's okay to punch a pig? And then sometimes you'll see this like thing kind of dawn on them and they go, well, no. And then I ask, well, why is that not okay? And the reason that basically everyone gives is because that, a pillow can't feel. They don't have a subjective experience, that there's nothing it is like to be them. Sometimes more simplistically, sometimes more complicated. But I think it's better to like, I feel like almost let them make a positive case for what matters rather than inviting them to do the very human rationalizing thing to find a reason why they shouldn't care.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
That's kind of why I don't like, from a rhetorical perspective, like with someone on the street, that's why I tend to stay away from NTT more often. I think it is fine more in like a very strictly philosophical sense. And if you're trying to like prove and show like sort of either inconsistencies or like absurdity in a position
in like a debate specific context,
I think
good.
I agree. I think it's better there. And like, again,
but we're not in that.
Because this was a discussion. But yeah, the other thing too is like, because there's other like, I mean, sometimes when someone says something, I can go like very simple with my counter argument, or I can go like really in depth. Like if someone's talking about crop deaths, like I can go like hard in on some numbers on crop deaths, but like not everyone has like the cognitive capacity to like handle that in the moment. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of like that kind of feels like what happened here to me with Tristan. It just feels like he's not tracking at points and he's just fucking confused. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's like intentionally like misreading it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Could I go to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah.
We do like a little break. Sweet.
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
I'll read the chat because I know I have to piss some people off here. All right. What do we got? Someone says, Stephen Takax. I like this. I like to say a dumb person can be talked into anything. An intelligent person can talk himself into anything. I like that. Let's see, what do we got here? If anyone wants to throw in a question to me while we're waiting. Natalie goes to the bathroom. Lemon Lotus says Joey was too passive. This is the general vibe I got from the debate, is that he felt a little too passive. I mean, there's several moments where he's not passive. He seems to be pretty like assertive, but at other times it does feel, it just feels passive to me. And sometimes I can't even totally like put my finger on what it is. But maybe it's like he's being a little soft-spoken or a little too, I don't know. Hey, chat says, I really appreciate your reviews. Thank you. Fabi Goose says, leave your mic on for the birds. Yeah, actually, before we even started this, I didn't have the screen up, and I was just sitting here, and all of a sudden I heard these like really loud birds in my ears, and I didn't know what was I thought I was having a stroke or something. And then I realized like she had signed on, and she's like sitting in a sunroom. Do you think the medium of being virtual threw him off? Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, being virtual is kind of weird. Like, I definitely like talking to people more in person, especially since they were having some technical difficulties. There was like freezing up. I do kind of wonder how much, I wonder if there was anything where like, it looked like he could hear, but maybe he missed a couple of things, or, I don't know, maybe there was lag. And if there's lag, like you don't tend to like react to the person in the same way, or you'll react to them in a slightly awkward way. So yeah, the medium could have definitely done something there.
Right, and back.
I did want to say something too. I think that, okay, like when I think about going into one of these debates, I think, okay, who is the audience? Well, one audience is Tristan. Then you've got like Tristan's fanboys, and then you've got like Joey's fanboys, right? And so I don't think you're really talking to the vegans at all, Joey's fanboys, right? We don't need to be talking to them. The vegans are already convinced of the arguments. But then beyond those two groups, you also have this group of people who are just going to watch a debate because Tristan Tate is in it, or there's a vegan in it, or it's a vegan debate, right? These are people, and I think most people who aren't Tristan fanboys probably don't like Tristan. I'm guessing it's a pretty divisive thing. Like, you either are all in on Tristan or you're like, fuck this guy. And so I think the general strategy of trying to talk in such a way that you appeal to this middle band of people, these like people who are just like want to see Tristan Tate, but not because they like him, I think that's a good overall strategy to try to like talk in such a way that's appealing to them, that you kind of disarm their counter arguments. You seem like a relatable person, whatever. And so I think that was kind of what Joey went in, like strategically, I think broadly speaking. I don't know if he executed on that strategy. So I think like good strategy, and then I don't know about the execution is kind of the way I felt about the whole thing. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Natalie.
I wonder how many people, like, why would someone even watch this if they aren't a fan of Tate or Joey?
Oh, I would have watched this. Before I was vegan, yeah. I would have watched this 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
1,000,000%. Yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe I'm overestimating. Maybe, okay, this might be fucking, what's it called? Naive realism. I might just be thinking because I watched it. Maybe there isn't a lot of crossover, but I feel like a lot of people hate watch the Tates.
My dog needs to go out.
Okay.
Yeah, people definitely hate watch the Tates. Like, half the time I go on YouTube Shorts, for whatever reason, it's just a bunch of like Tate videos, and I watch them. I don't know why. Yeah, I know that's what I'm saying. So I think that it is going to draw in an audience, and that's why I wish like there would have been very like delineated, like Tate says appeal to nature, you address appeal to nature. He says this. That's like my biggest thing, is that just those would have been addressed in like really succinct ways. And we like that would have been great.
Yeah. That's what I wanted the most out of this, honestly.
Me too. I think that's what I was looking forward to. I was like, oh man, this will be like common debunks, and then people know, and then maybe they'll stop talking about crop deaths. Yeah. And I think that was fantasy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it definitely was fantasy.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Maybe I'll kind of jump to the end here. I don't know how much we want to do in this. So there's something interesting I want to point out here too. At this point, Tate says something like, well, you're not religious, but I'll come into your shoes and like talk to you in your language. Later on at the very end, Joey is doing the same thing. It's like an internal critique. He's like talking about like, so, well, if
like the devil.
Yeah. He's like, well, if a Muslim thinks this, then XYZ. And I don't know exactly where it is. I don't want to find it in here, but Tate is like, well, why are you Muslim? Are you Muslim? Well, then why are you speaking for Muslims? Why are you speaking? And he's totally playing dumb about what an internal critique is. It's very common, right? And in fact, so like the first time I saw that, I'm like, he has to know what internal critique is. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, this motherfucker, he did the exact same thing in this moment where he was like, I'm not religious, so I'll talk as if I'm in your shoes. So this thing where he like gets on Joey for like not being able to speak for Muslims at the end, he clearly knew it was bullshit because he does it right here where he switches into like the atheist frame.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was weird that he called him out on that in the moment. I was like, why is he being weird about this?
Yeah. Because internal critiques tend to be very strong.
Wait, so internal critique means...
Sorry, it's like, yeah, like, it's kind of like the thing of like, you know, hey, I'm religious, you know, and God said we can eat animals. If I said, okay, God isn't real, prove to me God, that's like not an internal critique. But if I said what you said, like, oh, well, dominion seems to mean that we also need to care for those animals, right? So by your own standards, this is like, it's like when you use their own standards against them in a way, right? You're saying,
I always do that.
Yeah, exactly, right. Even by like, and that's why like, internal critiques tend to be stronger because you don't have to argue about their values anymore. You just take their values and say, even with your values, X, Y, Z.
That's why you spend time at debates establishing values, right? So you can do that.
Exactly, because that's kind of like the thing earlier where I said like where people all say, okay, sentience is what matters. Everyone always, when I ask that in a neutral position where they don't know we're going to talk about veganism, everyone says sentience matters. But if you start a debate and they know it's about veganism, people start getting really shy. Like, I don't know if a pig, is it okay to do it to a pig? Or I don't know, is a pig even sentient? Like, it's hard to say. It's like, you motherfucker, I know. And this is why I did it. Because I'm like, I know you wouldn't say that in any other situation where you didn't like, where you weren't trying to play like 5 moves ahead in chess. And that's why I ask people that up front, because then it's undeniable. I'm like, yeah, and we all know that. We all know this is bullshit. Yeah.
That's why you and me both kind of bring up unrelated to veganism and then switch.
Exactly. So we can internally critique. Yeah. And we don't have to do the hard work of something else. Yeah. That is right.
Good fun.
What else do I want to say before we get to it? He also, the hypothetical thing, I don't know if we'll get to that at some point, but Tate talks about hypotheticals and about how like,
he doesn't use them or whatever.
He uses them in debate, then he's like acting like he doesn't use them or you shouldn't use them. He doesn't like to go down this route. It's like, yeah, and this is just like another thing where it's like hypotheticals are totally not an invalid move in a debate. But I think this is the other thing too with the NTT I want to critique. Hypotheticals, totally valid. NTT, totally valid. Them being valid doesn't mean they're persuasive or that people won't get tripped up. And I've said this about hypotheticals before. I can give 2 hypotheticals that are equally like fine hypotheticals. Like if I say, hey, if a dog was walking by and a tree branch was about to fall on their head and you like could just press a button to make the tree branch like, you know, fall out of the way. Like, would you do that? Right. That's like a hypothetical. And it tests like, do people with minimal effort, do they care about the suffering of animals in some way? But I could also say, hey, if like a dog was walking by and there was an interdimensional portal and it opened up and like 1 million baby T-Rexes like fell out of it and onto the dog's head and you could press a button to stop that from happening. Like, would you stop that? Well, both of those hypotheticals are valid and they test like the same thing. But someone can get caught up in that second one and be like, what? Interdimensional portals don't exist. Like, so it's like, as the hypotheticals get more fantastical or like sci-fi, people will find an out. Even if it's like bullshit, they'll be like, oh, I don't like that. Like, you can't say that because that's unrealistic. And I think that's like, with the like humans that weren't really humans, I think it starts getting in that weird fantastical like sci-fi level. And so like, if you can keep it out of that, I think always keep it out of that. Even though, again, like I said, the hypothetical is valid either way. But being valid doesn't mean the person will accept it. It doesn't mean they'll accept every hypothetical, and it doesn't mean every type of hypothetical has an equal chance of being accepted by your interlocutor, you know? So, I don't know.
And there's some people like, I watched your hypothetical live stream because I was like not really on board with hypotheticals. And I was like, I should learn from this. And I actually liked it. I've been incorporating them more. But I think one of the things that you brought up then that was interesting is that like people are people who like hypotheticals or like they're people who don't. And you can kind of like figure out like Tate's probably not going to be someone who likes hypotheticals. Like, I don't know if that just seems more like what he's like. So
I agree.
Kind of bringing it up might be a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Name the Trait is that at some point with Name the Trait, often you do have to get to a point where you use hypotheticals and that's when it can tend to fall apart.
Yep. Yeah, and I think we're in a bit of a double bind here, because like I was thinking, well, what is like the alternative to a hypothetical? And it's like, well, a real world scenario. Okay, well, what real world scenarios like have a lot of analogs with what we do to animals? And it's like slavery, Holocaust, women's rights.
All the shit that people get pissed off about.
And so like you either have a hypothetical that's unoffensive, like, oh, I heard a green-eyed person or something, in which they'll be like, that's just a hypothetical. Or you have the thing that's not a hypothetical, and they're like, I don't like that because it offends me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
well, that's why I'm glad I'm a woman, because I can always do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Really
Yeah, and you should lead into that.
Yeah, I did hard when I was doing outreach the other day. It was great.
I literally can't do any of them, but I still use them.
Poor white male.
Yeah.
Poor Justin. Oh.
That's funny. Okay, hold on. I want to find... So I think there was another really good point here, and it's at the end, and so I want to kind of find that.
Is it the manly stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of people watching this right now. I really am appreciative of that, and I'm glad that you're not saying, oh, you have to eat meat to be a man or whatever. We can do what we want to them. These birds, they're very fragile. They are tiny. We can crush them with with our boot.
Yep.
Like, do you think that it is like eating these animals is like a form of masculinity, or does it make you more of a man or anything like that?
No, I don't believe that. I'm not one of these guys who says, oh, you have to eat meat to be a man. To be a man, you have to live by your own convictions, and you have to stand by your own convictions.
Said.
I feel like the question is wired in a way, and I don't want it to spiral back down that toilet of, oh, but babies and humans are less vulnerable, so, chickens and humans. I don't want to spiral back down that same toilet bowl. But being...
Yeah, of course you don't, because it exposes your argument. Like...
A man is about living by your own convictions, standing up and saying, this is what I believe in, being ready to challenge people in their beliefs, being happy to talk to people like I'm talking to you now when a bunch of internet trolls say you're scared to debate veganism, when it's an issue I don't really care about. But being able to stand up, say what you mean what you say, that's what being a man is about. I'm not saying you have to go around and stab, I stabbed a pig, I'm so macho. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. Just like punching someone in the face isn't an easy thing to do. You've punched plenty of people in the face, and so have I, I'm sure.
It's really easy to punch people
that's
in the face.
the nature of the reality of the world that we live in. So no, I'm not going to even fall into the trap of saying you have to eat meat to be a man. Because, when I've seen you argue with people look scared of you a bit, intimidated by you a bit. And you stand up there anyway, no matter what someone says. If someone's eating a burger in your face and you say, no, I think this is wrong, and I'm going to travel around the world and say that this is wrong as much as I want to, that is being a man. And credit for you for doing it. If you want to go around the world and preach this for the rest of your life, which I assume you will, then all power to you. But you're never, ever, ever, ever going to convince people like me, because there are smart people out there who know everything about the meat industry you do. You can't hit us with any eye openers. You can't hit us with any weird hypotheticals about non-human humans, because that's just not real. And I'm going to shrug my shoulders. I'm going to hang up this call after we finish amicably saying goodbye to each other, and I'm going to go and eat whatever I like, and you're going to eat whatever you like, and you're not going to be able to change my mind. So be a man, say what you mean what you say, and travel around the world and continue doing it. But you're going to have zero success when it comes to people like me. Yeah, I don't care.
And Tristan, coming into this, I actually already knew that. I just really appreciated. I just want to say I really appreciate you having this discussion with me on your platform, because you didn't have to. You didn't have to do anything.
I didn't have to,
even if people say, "Oh, you're scared," you didn't have to have me on your platform with all of your tens of thousands of people watching this right now. I really am appreciative of that, and I'm glad that you're not saying, "Oh, you have to eat meat to be a man" or whatever like that. I mean, because I think it's actually pathetic if people think that what you put in your mouth makes you more of a protector or more of a man, or thinks it makes you any less of a man to care about this issue. You're saying you don't care about animals. I disagree. I do care about vulnerable beings, and that's why I try to protect them. Okay, and if anyone was stomping on an animal, provided like I was in their vicinity, I would rush in and help, and I'd get bashed trying to help an animal from.
And again, if I saw a man stepping on a dog, I wouldn't walk past smiling. So I know we could go.
Why? What would be the problem? What would be the problem with a dude doing that to a dog? Again, this is where like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that's weird is like at the beginning, he's like, "Oh, you could change my mind. Who knows?" And now he's like, "You'll never change my mind." So it's like a total 180. Yep. Like, what happens?
Yep. And he says that actually like several times at the end. He's like, "And you'll never change my mind." And it's like, this is the other thing that feels like cope to me, because like, if someone really didn't care, like if someone's really talking to me about a subject that I truly don't care about, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I don't agree with that. I'm not gonna be like, you're never gonna change my mind. Like when someone starts doing that, then I'm like, okay, bro, like this is like a little bit of the methinks he doth protest too much.
There's some defensive there for sure.
And so again, he could totally be a sociopath. I'm totally open to that idea. I think there's a high likelihood that he's just a sociopath. But I think there's enough in this that would make me question that, where I'm like, I think there might be cracks there of like potentially like a good person who could blossom out of it. Not that I think it's a high likelihood, but
maybe like 0.5.
Yeah, there you go. Like something like that. Something like a little minuscule something there. So yeah, I thought the manliness part was really good. Again, like not everything in a debate or a discussion has to be a like, you said X, therefore Y, blah, blah, blah. Like not everything has to be like this super hype or like logical dialogue tree or whatever. And I think like having Tristan co-sign that you don't need to eat meat to be manly to an audience who like manliness is like a central value
Big
to them
thing.
is
Yeah.
to me a really big thing. Yeah. And so I think this
Yeah.
was like, a really excellent point. And like, I mean, Tristan didn't even fight him on it. Tristan like immediately
Yeah.
was just like conceded it. It was like, okay. So
That kind of takes some of the power out of it, unfortunately.
yeah.
But I guess it's good you didn't fight him on it because he doesn't believe that. But I feel like he probably does believe that you have to eat meat to be a man. He's just like saying that he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, that'd be interesting. I did wonder at times how much of this he did believe and didn't believe. Like, this is the other problem with, you know, again, like, I don't know that much about Tristan Tate. Like, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of what all happened.
Right.
But, like, there is just this layer of, like, how much dishonesty is here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
not like the standard Carnist dishonesty of, like, the kind of stuff we run into where there's, like, denial in a debate about how they really feel or, like, you know, subconscious stuff. But, like, actually willful, intentional lies that he's telling here. And
Yeah, I
just
mean,
don't
he's
know.
had to have told a lot of lies to be where he is in his life and career, right? And, you know, the
Yeah.
legal stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to get a sense of it. Before this, I was like, I'm going to watch a bunch of Tate stuff to, like, get more familiar with what he actually believes. Like, does he believe in climate change or, like, whatever? I doubt he does. But I ended up not doing that.
Probably, honestly, probably a good thing. Really.
Yeah. It's like, I don't have time.
Yeah, like, that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the only thing, again, like I said, I didn't like here, this was the part that I did have a visceral sense of, like, when Joey's, like, really, like...
Thanks for having me on, like, a few
Yeah,
times.
like, he's really ingratiating himself to him in a way that, like, I was like, it felt, like, a bit much. But, you know, I don't know. I think, you know, it could be
It could just be
Starstruck.
you, like, I don't know. I feel that way a lot. Like, whenever people are a little disingenuous, like, I feel like I pick up on it more lately.
Yeah.
Maybe from being in the public eye or whatever. So it could just be that you're, like, more attuned to it, maybe than most people.
Oh, because you think Joey is lying. You think Joey's being disingenuous and that he's not really that thankful.
No, I think he is really thankful,
Okay.
but it is because he, like, because maybe Tate has more status or something.
Yeah.
And it just kind of comes across as a little disingenuous,
Yeah.
based on, like, how different their beliefs are and, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it did make me feel a little gross. And again, it could all just be strategy. It could be the, like, you know, like you said, stroke their ego a little bit. Although I don't know how much it matters to stroke their ego at the very end here. Is the part that I think that's the other part.
Yeah,
Like, I get it
I think
more
he
in the
stroked
beginning.
his ego enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think in the beginning it makes more sense, but I don't know.
And it
But
doesn't necessarily make sense to stroke someone's ego after they've been, like, a total dick about stuff you really care about for that long.
right,
Like, it almost feels like you're kind of, like, giving up a boundary.
I totally agree. I think that is actually a good point because okay, yeah. Before I thought that my problem was just that it happened at the end when it wasn't practical, but I think you're right too. It's like after, yeah, like you said, like it did feel like he, like, traversed some boundary there, and, like, he was being a dick and at times being evasive, and then you're like, oh, thanks so much. You know? It's like,
Yeah, it's like, stick to your guns a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I guess maybe sometimes I do that in outreach conversations where I'm very polite at the end.
Yeah, I do that too, actually,
I'm
because
like,
you
thanks
want to
for-
leave them with a good impression
Yeah.
of vegans. But I don't know. I try not to be that nice if they've been
Yeah.
a dick.
Yeah, right. If they're being an asshole. Yeah, I don't know why. Again, maybe this is just me up in my fifis for some reason here, but yeah, for some reason I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. That's all. I didn't like it. Yeah,
I was
okay.
actually talking to my mom about that, about, like, because we talked yesterday and you were like, yeah, there was something about it that I, like, felt was, like, off or something, and my mom was like, oh, well, his feelings are all that matters, millennials. I was like, oh god. And that's when I was like, I don't even know if he's a millennial.
That's funny.
But yeah, it could just be your feelings.
I feel like, man, it's so funny because, like, I'll get that sometimes on here, like, oh, you just care about your feelings too much. I am, like, the fucking poster child of being, like, an overly logical, like, debating
Yeah.
motherfucker. Like, if you went back to anyone in my childhood or people I do in college or maybe even people now and are like, yeah, he's kind of an emotional guy, right? He's kind of overly, they'd be like, him? They'd be like, what the fuck are
They'd
you
be,
talking
"You're a
about?
robot."
Yeah, you must be talking about someone else. You know,
That's
so it's
funny.
always funny when I get that. I'm just like, whoa, like
You do project like an emotional awareness that I
Mm.
think other men maybe don't project as much.
Well, I will tell you, I've worked on that like specifically for the past like 2 or 3 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
like it's
Jesus.
like a yeah, it's an intentional thing. It was not something I didn't come stock with that software.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I can see that.
wait, what does that mean? Fuck you.
No,
You're like, yeah, it
you're the
seems
type
like
of
it seems
person
like you're
who
trying
works
really
on
hard.
stuff. Yeah, you always work on shit. I like that about you. You know, I think it's good.
All right, let's see. Wrap up here. Is there anything else?
Go down these same arguments again and again and again and again. But I don't think we're ever going to get anywhere with this.
So I just was trying to figure out your views on masculinity, and if you're saying it doesn't make you more or less of a man to what about if you got to eat steak to be a man, you know, eating steak is manly or whatever, something like stupid like that, or if you eat vegan, you're going to be feminized or turn into like
I have
a
said
woman or something
the
like
exact. I said the exact opposite. I saw this fat soy dork standing at his barbecue grill in his Crocs and his shorts with in his low-income house, flipping these burgers, being like, "Oh yeah, I'm such a man because I could barbecue." I'm like, "You think that makes you a man, bro? You look like a middle-aged fat lesbian. What's wrong with you? You're not a man. If I came to your house and stole your burgers, you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Not that. I mean, yeah. So I've actually said the exact opposite a few times. No, I don't think it's mutually exclusive. But
yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what you can be a vegan and be a man and protect the vulnerable, protect your family, and if you had to bear arms and go to war and do all these, protect the vulnerable, protect your children. There's a stereotype that just because you care about like other animals that aren't dogs or whatever, that makes you less of like a man or whatever. And I know a lot of your following, they listen to what you say. Like they really do, mate. You've got a huge influence and people respect you. I look at all your comments, I look at your following,
Wonderful.
It's massive. People respect you and something about you they listen to. So, I was just hoping that there's some people that listen to you that you might be able to sort of bring them off of this, at least this anti-vegan stereotype kind of thing where people are, oh, if you're a vegan, you're a bitch, or if you're a vegan, you're part of the matrix, or you've fallen for some propaganda, or you're like, now people bring all that shit. It just fundamentally could mean that people just care about the experience of animals that people just don't generally care about. So,
well,
I mean...
It's the exact same point I made about Japanese history earlier. Like, people have different passions and people have different things that they fight for. I know you think this is super important and the whole world needs to care. Some people don't care. Some people don't care about the things that I say or the things that I do. And that's the way it is. But no, I think that most people I know who I would describe as bitches, to use your word, this guy's a bitch. Because
I think it's funny that he says to use your word as if like Tate is above saying that. Like he's like got such a like an elevated view of like language and women that he would never
say bitch.
Yeah.
He would never say bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
99% of people eat meat, especially where I live. The 99% of the people I meet are bitches. So I wouldn't say it's mutually exclusive, no. Read, be smart, be a man. Don't be afraid of standing up for your values. Train yourself, become physically strong, protect and provide for the people who you care about, I think that's what makes you a man. And if you want to be a vegan, I truly don't care, which is why I started this off with, this isn't a debate, because I have no real disagreement on what you're doing.
It's been a discussion though, and I think it's been like more than what you thought it might be. I thought you were just going to come in and say you don't care, so it's all fine, I don't care, and then like it wouldn't be. But we have actually got into a more of a discussion than maybe you expected, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, well, my position is that I don't care, and I think I've maintained that quite well. But yeah, I think that we both know a lot about this topic, which is why I thought I'd sit and talk to you, because I imagine that, especially the people watching on YouTube, I can imagine.
No one can deny that he said it a lot.
I was hoping someone would do a compilation of like all the times he said I don't care in the debate and like count it.
Or to like what are those like music things where he's like, I don't care. It's like to like a techno beat or something.
Yeah. Someone get to work.
All right, so yeah, I think we kind of talked about this in the beginning. And for those of you that weren't here, I did do a little I guess I can do a poll in here, can I? How do I do a poll?
You're asking me?
I don't know why I'm fucking asking. Do I type like /poll or something? That's probably a thing. No, it's not. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, okay, hold on. Start a poll.
Oh, neat.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it right now.
Nice.
So
wait, what's the poll?
The poll is going to be overall this debate. Am I gonna spell it right? Overall, this debate was like good for veganism, neutral for veganism, bad for veganism.
Bad.
I guess I can't do who the fuck is Tristan Tate on this one. Like, that wouldn't make any sense.
Who are we watching?
Yeah. All right. I'm just gonna put that in there. Vote on that poll based on what you truly think. Try not to let like Natalie or myself influence.
Just agree with everything.
Yeah.
That we say.
So we kind of talked about this earlier, and I think that my position My position would generally be that I think it was good for veganism overall, but that I think there was like a lot of room for improvement. It was, and you know, I mean, maybe like it's always the thing, like your expectations always exceed like reality or whatever. But I did come in like wanting a little more from it, and I think even after I tried to go back and analyze it and see if like all like my like if I expected too much, and I don't think I did. I think there were definitely some things that could have been improved that are like reasonable, and I think some things kind of like were less optimal because like they make sense. Like I get why like certain things didn't happen. But yeah, overall, I think I would say it's good because I think just the fact that more people are just getting exposed to a vegan conversation that isn't like someone like throwing blood on them, like, or throwing like a dead pig outside of, you know, like a fake dead pig or whatever, like outside of a restaurant. I think the more people that just see this as like, oh, they're like humans talking about this in like a generically civil way. I think the more that just gets out there, just the better, like the normalization of it. Even if 0 people were convinced by this debate, I think that like the
still good.
Yeah, the normative factor still helps. And so to me, I would say good with definite room for improvement. That's my general takeaway. So what do you think, Natalie?
Well, I voted bad.
Okay.
But
I said it's bad.
I think it probably is good because it leads to kind of discussions like this. Like we can strategize and we can further talk about like, what do we do when we're in these situations where we have someone who's pretty unmovable and isn't going to be consistent, but we have this opportunity to talk to their audience, and what are the strategies we can use in that situation? And, you know, I think having conversations like that is really good. Like, it kind of reminds me of when Nathan McGovern was on Piers Morgan and you did like a breakdown of that. And like now I feel like we kind of know what the goal is when you're going to be on Piers Morgan, right? It's to move the Overton window, to make veganism more acceptable. In the same way, I think that that should be a similar goal for debates like this. Like we want to move the window a bit. We also, I think what was missed in this debate, which is really important, is to debunk those common arguments. And that's where this really fell flat for me. And I think that, but now that we know that we can be like, okay, we don't even have to focus on what this crazy person's saying. Like, let's address this stuff and get it out of the way, and then make a stronger case for veganism. And of course, there are a million arguments, and we don't have time to address all of them. But if we can get the appeals to nature, if we can get crop dust, if we can get nutrition, then like we're in a good position.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that, actually. So
talk about animal sentience too. I wish there had been more talk about that.
Yeah, the thing I always like too is, and I think they could have gone into, he kind of mentions it quickly here with the pigs in the gas chambers, but I think it is always good too to lay out to the audience a couple things that they don't know and that are horrific. Like everyone just knows the gas chambers and then the pigs ground. Like I think the eggs and milk are good too. Like pigs, or not pigs ground up, baby chicks ground up, and then the like forcible impregnation and taking away the baby from the mother. Because those are things that a lot of people who are even like vegetarian seemingly don't know. And so, like, I think getting really the case out there, because I've heard people before be like, you don't eat eggs. And they're like, well, how do you feel about abortion? And it's because like, they're like, well, like the egg doesn't have, and it's like, that's not the, it's not the egg itself.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I remember just being really confused why vegans didn't eat eggs or even milk. Like the day I learned that cows were forcibly impregnated was literally the day I went vegan. Like I had no idea.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. And I had no idea. And like, I was like that dumbass too, who was like, like when they were like, why do cows produce milk? And I was like, oh shit. Like I figured it out in my head, but like I was aware that I wasn't aware, you know what I mean? Until the question was asked. It's like, I was
that happens to so many people. Like they know the answer when you ask them, but they wouldn't have thought of it before.
Exactly. And like, yeah. And I think that realization is crazy strong, because it's not just that this bad thing is happening. To me, because I like investigate like my like meta knowledge, you know, like why do I know what I know or whatever. And the fact that I didn't know that, or that wasn't top of mind, or that someone had to like cue me to believe that, I was like, oh fuck, this is really culturally ingrained. That was like one of the big things where I was like, wow, that was more culturally ingrained than I realized, because like fucking duh, of course. Like why did I think otherwise, you know?
No, it's crazy, the amount of brainwashing. And it's also like the other big thing that made me realize that veganism was important and talking about it's important is how defensive people get. To me, that's a really big sign that like something's off.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. That's
why I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
There are many reasons,
dude,
but
one
is that I hate the level of defensiveness.
So I do watch the news, but I go in like these little breaks where like I'll go on a 2-week break where I won't watch, and then 2-week break where I am, and I'm so much less informed. Like people are talking about shit I don't know about, but in those 2 weeks when I don't watch the news, I feel fucking amazing. It's like I feel so
you feel
much
so
better.
much happier.
I'm just like, damn, like it's like, yeah, I wonder why, like, you know, a business whose like whole incentive is to get you to click with rage bait. I wonder why that makes me feel like shit when I watch it all. It's so odd.
What is that?
Yeah, it's a real
God, I can't believe you
head-scratcher.
watch the news.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's a real mystery. Yeah, okay. Let's see if I can, now that I'm going to be too dumb to know how to stop the poll. Okay, hold on. All right, everyone, the poll is ending, so get your votes in 5 seconds, and then the poll is going to be over and no more voting. All right, that was probably 5 seconds. What do we got? All right. Neutral, more neutral. 41% said neutral, 38% said good, and 19% said bad.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Let me see what my, I'm going to check what my Instagram poll is. I think it was maybe similar. Instagram's a little different. Instagram says 34% good, 32% neutral, 19% bad. But to be fair, I had 15% of people didn't know who the fuck Tristan Tate was. So I don't know.
That's wild
I don't
to
know
me.
where their
Yeah.
votes might have gone otherwise, you know. But yeah, so it seems like most people are like in the realm of good to neutral.
Neutral/good.
Yeah. And I think if Joey would have come more correct with those arguments and debunking, I think we would have had a lot more people saying good.
I would have said good. Yeah.
I think there was, so I think there's room for improvement. So
It's good. I feel like he kind of ended the debate though, and the fact that on Joey's live stream after Tate like messaged him like good convo or something. I think the fact that he has kind of left this relationship open is good.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he'll have a chance to come back on one day. Like I could see that happening.
yeah, so I think that's definitely something. I think that's another thing is like this could have been playing the long game.
Yeah.
And so it might help with the long game. Now, here's the problem with that for me. And this is why I didn't want to say it. The last time I was like, hey, maybe this person was just playing the long game. Was when Cosmic
Alex
Skeptic was on
O'Connor?
Michaela Peterson. I was like, maybe he's just playing the long game. So
no.
I'm not going to say Joey was playing. If he did, then we'll see that in the future. But I'm not going to say he was
If
playing
Joey
the long
goes
game.
ex-vegan, that would be insane. Like I don't see that happening.
Maybe Tristan convinced him. Maybe after
Oh
this,
my
he's
God.
like, oh shit.
Yeah, he's like, wow, made in God's image. That's it.
Alrighty. So if anyone has any questions or anything, feel free. You can ask us questions if you. Well, I don't know. I don't know if Natalie wants to take any questions or not.
Yeah, I'm down for questions.
Okay.
I'm going back to New Orleans tomorrow, so I have to pack, but I don't feel like it. So
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's
Yeah,
do,
do
like,
questions.
Sometimes people don't even ask questions, so I just like to throw it out there. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, like 10 minutes, guys. If we want to have questions or whatever, we'll try to answer anything. You and me could just like shoot the shit. So, wait, you haven't seen Barbie yet, or?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've been off the grid.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I do want to see it.
I wasn't even aware like what the point of it was until like my friends told me, because everyone's like Oppenheimer and Barbie, and to me I'm like Oppenheimer, that sounds amazing, and Barbie I'm like, is that like a children's movie? I don't understand what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And then people like explained to me it's like a social critique or something like that, and I'm like, okay, well, I can get down with that at least. So
It had a higher score than Oppenheimer on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
And it's not 3 hours long. Like,
Yeah.
that's so long.
It
I
is
heard
true.
how long it was. I was like, I can't
it
do
is true.
that. I have a hard time sitting in movies. Like I don't watch that many movies. I'm more of like a TV show
Yeah.
person. I like to get up a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's funny that your friends all voted Barbie.
Yeah. Yeah. They had like, it was like a fucking like it was like windmill slam for Barbie. They weren't like, I don't know, Oppenheimer. They're like, no, we're seeing Barbie. We're not watching Oppenheimer. So it's like,
You can go another time.
yeah, exactly. I have to go watch it some other time. So
I heard Robert Downey Jr. was really good in it.
So I love Cillian Murphy. In what is the show I like him in? Peaky Blinders. Peaky Blinders is like I think Peaky Blinders is maybe the best acted show I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like, the acting in Peaky Blinders is just like fucking off the charts. It's dark. It's a good show, but
I think I've seen like a Charisma on Command breakdown of it, but I've never watched it.
Oh yeah, he did do one of those. He did do a breakdown. That's funny. Of
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting question. All right, yeah, and if you guys want to ask questions, just at Debug Your Brain, or give me a little donation or something.
If you want me to smoke this cigar,
yeah, just do a little donation.
donate.
Lewis says, ask Natalie what's the most important thing she learned watching your content.
Nothing. It's all terrible.
What have I taught you, Natalie? What have you learned from
I've actually learned a
master?
lot from you. I feel like I almost don't know where my channel would be without you, because you gave me the idea for that sign, help my YouTube channel grow, answer thought-provoking questions. And then before that, I was just giving out like free beer, and I was kind of like stuck with that because I didn't really have any ideas of like, I mean, there were other ways to talk to people, but yeah, that sign really helped a lot. Also, the idea of starting with quotes, and then also the whole like power thing, like that idea that I believe you started, you talked about like the power that humans have over animals at farms. And I found that to just be like an amazing way to get people to think about this in a different way. Oh. I learned that. I learned a lot about, well, okay. So after I watched this debate, I know that you had made a video a while ago, like responses to someone when they say they just don't care about animals. So I rewatched that, and you talked about like the redhead experiment. Like, what if I just didn't care about redheads, but that doesn't justify me murdering them or whatever? Yeah. So I learned that this week from your content. I think there's a lot. It's hard to.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, okay, calm down. Like you're listing too many.
I actually am a huge fan of Debug Your Brain. It's funny. A lot of times I meet people and they're like excited to meet me, and they're like, oh, but you know Justin. I'm like, yeah, like I know Justin. Fuck off. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot I've learned. It's a shame you don't make more videos.
Yeah,
I also think you should quit your job, but that's a different topic.
It's funny the thing you said about the redheads. If you notice, I didn't say redheads today. I said green eyes.
You said green-eyed, yeah.
So apparently someone came on, and I don't know if they were trolling or not, but then I was like, I got a little whatever about it. But they were like, just so you know, like redheads actually are kind of discriminated against.
Dude, they
like, yeah. And so like I was like, oh, maybe they are. Like maybe that's something I was like, because to me it's like so like. Again, like obviously racism is dumb to me, but it's like even another level to like redheads. Like what I didn't think anyone so even weird. Like. And so, yeah, I was like, surely no one would discriminate against this. And they were like, well, yeah, you might be surprised.
So one of my friends is a redhead, and one of my other friends exclusively only dates redheads. And I was with both of them, and I said something about, like, I called someone a ginger. And they were like, oh, that's offensive. My redheaded friend was like, yeah, I mean, people were so mean to me growing up because I'm a ginger. And that's when, like, the South Park episode about gingers not having souls was coming out. So yeah, he said it was like pretty brutal growing up.
Damn,
like,
okay, yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, maybe I'll stop using that then. Yeah, I mean, I sort of have like pushed away from it, but yeah, that's an interesting thing. That's funny. So okay, that it's so interesting to me that you said that sign like helped you out like in your activism, because this is like such a. I feel like this is why it's so important, like to have more vegans, because you start getting these like synergistic effects that you wouldn't get with just one. Because, and this is very much a like snake eating its own tail thing. I was like kicking around doing activism, like doing street activism for a long time. And I just like, I didn't feel like figuring out the initial logistics of doing it. And you did a video where you were handing out free beers, and I was like, well, I can't do that where I am, but I can hand out free cookies. And so it was after watching your video that then I went out and was like, okay, I'll just do the thing she said, but with free cookies. And so I started with a sign like that, like talk to me about animal rights, get a cookie, talk to me about veganism, get a cookie. And so that's like really interesting to me, because then we really did like, it's like I might not have even gotten started on like going out, or definitely not as soon had I not seen that video of yours.
Aww,
so it's interesting so that it like kind of like snowballed on itself like
we
that.
We helped each other out.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. And it's good. Like we started our channels around the same time, like it's good to have this like kind of community and whatnot and learn from each other. Yeah, that's funny. Cause I remember I made that video, like 5 ways to start conversations with non-vegans or something. And that's why I made that, was because I feel like there are a lot of people who want to do this stuff, but it's like that initial step of like not knowing exactly how to start, where people get stuck. I'm actually working on, it's going to be like a vegan outreach starter guide. So that's going to have a lot of stuff like that. It'll probably be like an ebook, or it'll be free too.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So if anyone has questions about that or things you want me to include, let me know because I'm writing it now
nice.
and I need ideas.
Very cool. Very cool. I know they didn't ask me, but I was just going to say, I learned that from you. I think the other thing that's nice talking to you is, and the same goes for, I think, like Catherine and Vegan Gays as well, is that like, just throughout my whole life, like if like I'm in a room somewhere and someone's like, you know, it's pronounced GIF or it's pronounced GIF, I'm going to take a position on that. And then I'm going to be like very overbearing and domineering and like,
oh my God.
and like, you know what I mean? Like whatever we can argue about, I'll fucking be like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
This is why you're wrong. Boom, boom, boom. Like, and I can get up my own ass about it a little bit to where I'm like talking myself into it because I'm just like steamrolling people. And so it's always good. I feel like you guys like, cause you guys will like disagree with me on stuff. You're like, I don't know about that or whatever. And so like, I like that, you know, there's people who like will give me like a reasonable check on my ideas and
keep you in check.
yeah, like sometimes you'll say something like, all right, fair enough. Yeah, maybe like I like didn't think that or whatever. So I think that's a good
it's
a good
funny
thing to
that
have.
you're really argumentative because I'm like not generally. Just when it comes to veganism.
Yeah, no, I just like getting into random arguments about anything. Actually, like I really like arguing about like is it GIF or GIF or like whatever. Like, there's like a whole bunch of those, or like if you know, is like a hot dog bun or is a hot dog a sandwich or whatever, like that dumb shit.
Yeah.
Because I just like the sport of it, of trying to like find if I can come up with a better bullshit reason than you can basically.
No, it can be fun. It can be fun. Very Vegan Mom has a question.
Oh yeah.
Justin, how would you have responded to Tristan's "I don't care" argument? I guess we didn't talk about that, did we?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways in a big discussion like this. Like, I think you have time to really thread it out, and I think I would have like kept going back to it because he like leaned on it so much. So I just, again, I was saying like I just did a video of this where I kind of just address a bunch of the arguments very quickly in like a sort of more tighter, like 10-15 minute video. And one of the things I say there is, especially because we're like we're kind of talking to the audience as well, is that like, just ask yourself, right? Like, would you accept that in other scenarios? If we were in like the early 1900s and you wanted to, and someone's like, yeah, I'll debate you about, you know, women's rights to vote. And you're like, okay, well, yeah, I think they should have the right to vote. And they're like, well, I don't. And you're like, okay, well, what's your argument? And they said, well, I don't care. It's like, no, like that's not an acceptable like form of discourse. No one accepts that. And so like if you're the audience hearing him say I don't care and you're accepting that sort of discourse, like I'm saying there's a contradiction in what you'll accept, basically. Like you wouldn't accept that in almost any other scenario. And so the question is why accept it here? And so that's kind of one thing where I'm like kind of talking to the audience a bit. And
so you
also,
would say that, like what you just said?
I would just fucking, like in a discussion like this, I would just break it. Like I think sometimes it's good to just kind of go meta and break the shit down. Again, in a street conversation that I don't know it's going to end in 5 minutes or whatever, I don't know that I have enough time to like fully do all that. But in something where we're getting into like the nuance, as Tristan said, because he likes to, I don't know if you remember the part where he's like, I like to be a little more nuanced. And I'm like,
the most nuanced person ever,
yeah,
Tristan Tate.
I'm like, yeah, so nuanced.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's one thing I would say. I would try to like kind of get in and kind of like, because sometimes it's good to zoom in on an argument. That's kind of what NTT does. It like zooms in. But sometimes I think it's actually better to zoom out and take this more bird's eye view. Like, hold on a second. Like, are we all cool with this? Are we all cool with like, I don't care is like a valid thing to say in an argument. We're all fine with it, you know? And I don't mean like logically valid. I mean, just like, is this something that generally you'd accept? And so like, I again, like no one's accepting it for slavery. No one's accepting it for, you know, for women's rights. No one's accepting it for any of these things. And so like, I think exposing that is good. And then something else Joey said at one point, because I think he did kind of bring up slavery. And instead of saying like,
yeah, because Tristan said he was like descended from slaves or whatever.
Exactly. And, you know, he was talking about the mindset. Is that a good mindset? And so the mindset that these people just didn't matter, these other individuals, is that a good mindset? And Tristan goes, well, no, that's not a good mindset. And so I think that's another thing is like, again, talk about, would you accept this generally? Is this a good mindset? And then you kind of get away from like the debate broy where they can kind of like wriggle more. And you get these concessions on these broader points that are like, very obvious if you're not in a debate where someone is like rationalizing, like clearly, like, you know, I think that's for me that would be the rhetorical route that I would take there, because it just goes to a weird space when you just accept that they don't care. You can go down the NTT route. Yeah.
pivot. Well, what I would say is like, oh, I understand that you don't care, and you've made that pretty clear. But some people watching may care. I personally care, and this is why I care because
Yeah.
animals are sentient. Blah blah blah. We don't need to eat animal. And then I would kind of make a case for veganism trying to debunk stuff.
Yeah.
So I would pivot away from him, but I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that wouldn't be the best strategy.
No, I mean, I think that could work too. I think the thing, I think the problem to me with NTT in this case, like, so the point of NTT here would be to be like, okay, so you don't care. And this is what Joey did. He's like, therefore you don't care about X, therefore you don't care about Y. And he starts saying all these horrible scenarios that Tristan has to then say he doesn't care about. And I think that's good to a degree because you show this to be like, just like, this dude just has insane views then. Like, you know what I mean? Then this is why like the whole like, well, okay, so then you don't care if like we set a bunch of dogs on fire. Someone like Jim Bob would just say, yeah, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. And so like you can kind of expose that, but like I think in some
That's
ways
dangerous here though, because
Yeah.
so many people look up to Tate so much and do take his views on as their own.
Yes.
And we don't want people to take those views.
Yes, this is the thing is that in many cases this exposes someone as, whoa, I don't want to have that view. But because he is such a person who is like impressionable to young men, I feel like they'll be like, well, okay, he seems like a good guy. He does X, Y, Z, whatever it is they think about him. And they'll be like, okay, so I don't care is now a valid thing to say, even though that leads you to that, you know, and plus he doesn't think this and like blah, blah, blah. Right. That's why I kind of like getting at the root of it, that the I don't care isn't like a thing that we can accept in this sort of discourse. Like we can't have that be a norm of discourse that you can just be like, I don't care. End of argument. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like,
it's insane.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's, I don't know. There's different ways to go about it, but yeah, I hope that answered that.
Yeah, I mean, and Very Vegan Mom, if you do come across this in outreach, I think the answer is different. That should be when you end conversations with people.
Yeah, so you take the like, this is like a conversation ender. I think so. I in an outreach conversation, the first thing I would personally do, it depends on when they say this, I just like to ask this, be like, okay, but like seriously, do you really not care? You don't care at all what happens to animals? Sometimes I like to do that to like give them a chance to be like, well, I mean, I do care about X, Y, Z. But if like once they start biting the bullet, like then it's like I think each bullet bite after that, exponentially, like you should start considering like, do I just leave this conversation?
Yeah.
You know,
and it also depends on a lot of other stuff. Like, are they being an asshole? Are you enjoying talking to them? Are they bringing up some valid points? And it kind of, you know, it is context dependent for sure.
Yeah. Debug, have you guys looked into eco-socialism? Like Jason Hickel's less is more. No,
I don't know what that means.
I don't think I know what eco-socialism is. I can kind of get like
less is more. I generally agree with that. I think
Yeah.
using less resources, living more
Yeah.
off the grid when you can is good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like, you know, if you're being more minimalist, like there is definitely this idea of like having more things like in our, like we've been like sort of funneled down this route of having more things makes us happier, but like, does it really? It seems like probably
No.
not. And so like, yeah, I guess if this is what eco-socialism is, excuse me, I don't know. But yeah, if it's about like consuming less, minimizing your footprint for the environment.
You know what I've been into a lot lately? This is totally off topic. I've been really like into like anti-car and like urban planning and like
Yes.
bikeable cities. I've just been watching like a ton of YouTube videos about that.
Strodes.
I'm
You
like
watch
so
Strodes?
oh yeah. What not just bikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an interest of mine for sure. That may fit in with eco-socialism. Just our reliance on cars is like totally insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bet it sucks in Raleigh or Durham, wherever.
Yeah.
Don't you have to drive everywhere in Durham?
Yeah. So I'm actually fairly close to downtown Durham, so I don't really have to get on any major roads to get there.
Nice. But you still have to get on a road.
I do have to get on a road. Yeah. I can't bike there.
Or is it a strode?
Yeah. Are there stroads? There aren't any stroads even. There actually aren't even any stroads on my way to Durham.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it is pretty nice. But there's stroads all over the place. Yeah, I mean, dude, Natalie, there have been like, there are like so many other things I would like to make videos about, but I can't even like make the vegan ones. Like, dude, like there's like environmental videos I want to make. There's ones about like city planning I want to make.
Oh man,
about cities, roads.
I think you could get away with an environmental video.
I've been kicking around the idea of like if I should, but dude, I swear sometimes like I will post like a single environmental thing on like my Instagram, and it's like among a bunch of vegans, like vegan vegan stuff, right? And then I'll
Yeah.
post something about environmentalism, about how like, you know, reducing meat intake helps the environment. And like I'll get messages from people and they'll be like, please stick to veganism, not this environmentalism bullshit.
Really?
And I'm like, what?
Oh wow, I've never gotten one of those.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I've
like, bro,
posted
I
some
can-
stuff about the environment.
Yeah, it's like I can care about multiple things. Like I don't have
that's
to.
so
It's
stupid.
not veganism. Let me see. Hold on. We got a debugger vein. Would you agree that exploring the ought is usually more fruitful than focusing on what someone does? I don't know if I totally know what you mean by that, but I think the way I think about this sometimes is like what an individual does or cares about. I do really like to use the Rouseyan veil of ignorance sort of thing. It's called like the original position, where like imagine you're sort of floating in the ether, right? And there's a world, a potential world in front of you, and you can tune the rules of that world however you want. So this is like a sort of stance independent. And so you could have a world with all vegans, you could have a world with no vegans, you could have a world of capitalism or socialism, or you could have a world with slavery. The question is, in that scenario, right? Let's say you were going to be shuttled into, like the locus of your consciousness was going to be shuttled into that world after you picked the rules, right? What rules would you pick for that world? And so like when I think about what we ought to, that's what I mean by what we ought to. I mean, like if you were in an original position, like what would be the thing to, like what way would you make that world? And again, it's not a perfect representation, right? Everything has like sort of holes and things like that. It's still like a heuristic. But when I think of like what we ought to, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of, yeah, like if I didn't know who I was, what would I want the world to look like? And I sure as shit wouldn't want the world to look like this if I didn't know who I was, because the chance of me being like an animal,
be a chicken.
I'd most likely be a chicken having a fucking horrible 6-week life, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's like the most likely outcome. And so, yeah, when I think about when I think about exploring the ought, that's what I think about. The other thing is I think about, and I got shit for this too, the golden rule. Oh man, I'll go off on this real quick. You can leave whenever you want, Natalie. Sorry, I mean to keep you.
No. What is it?
So,
are you talking about some stuff people saying on Instagram?
No, so these are just comments on my last video. So I have this thing about the golden rule. So, okay, the golden rule says basically treat others as you would want to be treated, right? And then there was a thing that came along later, was the platinum rule, which is basically treat others as like they would like to be treated.
Yeah.
And so I have this weird thing though. So I put the golden rule in my video, and you know I always put a bunch of caveats and stuff. And I was talking to my girlfriend. I was like, I put golden rule in my video. I was like, I can still change it. Do you think I should just go with platinum rule or whatever? She's like, yeah, it's probably should go with platinum rule. I'm like, yeah, but that's stupid and I don't want to. Here's like this is just me being kind of immature about this. I heard the golden rule as a child, and I immediately was like, well, okay, that doesn't make sense, because like if I like vanilla ice cream and someone else likes chocolate ice cream, then like I'm not going to buy them a vanilla ice cream because I like it. And so as a kid, I was like, so that's clearly not what is meant by the golden rule. The golden rule means more like, you know, what would you do if you were that person, right? Like to me, the golden rule has always meant the platinum rule. So I'm like, I'm really like, I don't know. Like I'm like very like resistant. I'm like stubborn. I'm like, I'm not going to accept the platinum rule, because to me it was obvious that the golden rule was the platinum rule or something. And so like I was like, whatever, I'll leave it out. It won't even matter. And, like several people got on me for using the golden rule in the video.
Really, instead of the platinum rule? Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So
I don't know if the platinum rule, like what you treat people how they want to be treated. I mean,
vegan.
Yeah,
I have a bunch of stupid wants. I want people to just bring me drinks and everything all the time. I don't think you should do that, though.
Yeah. I think it's like a more general thing. Like maybe treat people in such a way, like don't treat people in such a way that they wouldn't want to be treated some like horrible way.
Yeah.
You know?
That makes sense more.
But it's also like a heuristic too. Again, it's not like this airtight like moral rule, but it's like a pretty good one, and it's kind of like stood the test of time or whatever. But yeah, I use golden rule, and it was so funny just because I asked my girlfriend. I was like, should I do it? And I was like, no, I'm gonna be stubborn. And I was like, immediately got hit for it in the comments.
You should always listen to your girlfriend.
I know. Let's see. Debug, what about lab-grown meat, guys? I feel that's the best way to move forward. Oh, okay. This person, sorry. I thought they were like talking about it from a debate perspective. Again, assuming the lab-grown meat doesn't involve like exploitation of animals, and I think it's like, if it's not already there, it's like rapidly moving to it not being necessary. then
I
yeah.
don't know if it is, because Cranky Vegan made this video that like apparently it's like not really as ethical as we've been led to believe.
So even if lab grown meat isn't, there's precision
Fermenting.
fermentation. Yeah, which is I think gonna almost make all of this irrelevant because like you can basically just make new superfoods, like foods that don't even exist right now, or foods that have like qualities that are just like totally new and like nutrient dense, as you might say, very nutrient dense foods. But like even like like maybe like you have like a flour that's gluten free, but it still has the properties of gluten, like the sticky properties and things like that. And so like now again, that's a little like further in the future and stuff, but I think there's like more there that's going to be very interesting, because also like
that'd be awesome. Like Huel has like that ramen or whatever that's like very nutrient dense and whatnot.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of like similar on that, but more with like textures that they can emulate, I guess. And then there was this other thing about like they isolated plant fat. I don't know. Mike the Vegan made a video about it that looked interesting. So, because a lot of people stop being vegan because like they miss the taste of like the animal fat.
Yeah.
And they found a way to do that with plants.
Oh, interesting. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm for all that stuff. Obviously, if there's not like some ethical thing. I guess
same.
If I were to just devil's advocate, like, okay, let's assume that lab-grown meat doesn't have any, like, there's no like harm to animals. Then my next thing is that it's still bad for the environment. So I still think there is some ethical issue with it, because it is going to still use a lot of like resources.
Yeah, unless they solve that.
Unless they solve that also. So if they solve that and solve that, is like, was there still be any reason? I think maybe, but then I'm getting into like I think like much more murky territory of why not. Like then it's kind of like it goes mostly into like a signaling thing, like because you're still viewing like animal meat as like a thing. Hold on. I don't think it's totally stupid. I think that's
really
yeah. I think it's like a weaker argument. I think it doesn't have as much like force behind it, but I think that I don't think we should count it out that it means nothing. But I don't think that the normative effect outweighs the fact that a bunch of people would adopt it who otherwise wouldn't go vegan. So like,
I think it'll probably be like good for animals.
Yeah, I'd say
which is what matters.
Yeah.
I hate saying net now because of all like the net positive and whatnot.
What?
Like Cosmic Skeptic talking about like the net positive life of animals, or like Sam Harris talks about that a lot. Yeah, so it makes me wary of that phrase.
You're scared of
I feel like
nets now?
it could be misused. Yeah. But yeah, lab grown meat. I hope it's a thing. I just tried daring chicken for the first time. It's really good. They don't have that in New Orleans, but I really liked it. It's it's plant based, but
I don't know if I've tried that.
They may not have it where you live, but it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's even just funny to me that we're putting all this money into making like lab-grown meat, something that will still be unhealthy for you, and that we will probably be able to like precision ferment something that tastes better than it anyway. But we're like, everyone just likes.
But let's get this meat.
Yeah, it's like there's so much resources going into it, and again, I think like I said, I think it'll be a net benefit, even if there's some negatives to it. But like, it's just man, I guess on this side of the issue at this point, it just seems so silly to me. It's like, why are we fucking doing this?
You think making lab-grown meat is silly?
I think it makes sense. Like, I think it's going to be like a net good, but it seems so stupid to me because I'm like, you could just go vegan. I mean? It's like we're putting all this money into making something that like, again, even with precision fermentation, like we'll probably have something that tastes like that is literally just like meat, but better. But even like, I don't know, they've even done taste tests too with shit where like people say the vegan meat tastes better. You know what I mean? And so it's like, man, this is like,
it really just shows how stupid we are, how stupid humans are. It's like, we want the exact same thing. Otherwise we're not going to mess with it. It's like, why?
Yeah. And the same thing happens with like wines too. Like, if you tell someone a wine is more expensive, they like it more. And like, you can even trick like professional level tasters with some of this shit. It's like, it's all expectation. Like the actual like experience itself is sometimes secondary to like your expectation of the experience. Have you seen the there's an experiment where they literally give two groups of people, I guess they give them two types of burgers, like an animal burger and a vegan burger. And then they ask them like which one they like better. And for the most part, everyone says they like in general, they say they like the animal burger better. Right. But then they reveal in one group, they lied to them. They had just flipped it.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, and so everyone was basically just saying they were all using their expectations that the animal burger would be better to inform what they thought. And it's like, yeah, it's like such a perfect like crystallization of,
Yeah.
this is why I don't always buy the if we get the taste exactly right, that's what we really need to do. Because I think there's like deeper psychological blocks
No.
there that, yeah.
Well, it's also like a lot of people that I talk to about it, it's like, oh, it's not just about the taste, it's like the macros and the nutrients, you know? So like if it has carbs or too much fat, like I just want the protein, you know? But now there's this soy-free mung bean tofu that has 0 carbs, 0 fat, all protein, which I haven't found yet because it's on New Orleans, but that's what I'm going to say to people. So there's a solution now.
But even the mock meat's macros look like a burger's macros. Like
no, they've got more carbs.
How much more? It's got to be like,
I think like significantly more.
Really? Interesting.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but like my mom's like a big like not as much anymore, but she's always been like low carb, like leans keto sort of. So carbs have always been like a pretty big focus.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I always like when people start going on about the health thing, it's so, to me, like I've grown up in a world where I've been around humans, and like I don't know anyone, like the majority of people, like 95%, for my eyes, don't care that much about their health. Like we go out
No,
and
not at all.
they're eating cheesy sticks, cookies, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you could go vegan, and like, oh, I don't know, a burger. Those vegan burgers aren't that healthy. I'm like, I just saw you eat like 10 donuts. Like, what are you talking about?
This girl pissed me off so much. We were like down like on Bourbon Street, which I rarely go to. It was like Pride or something. And she went and she got a Lucky Dog, which is like the most disgusting hot dog you can get. Like people are like, you only eat Lucky Dogs when you're like wasted. Like they're gross. They're like New Orleans street food. They're not good. And then we started talking. I told her I was vegan or whatever, and she was like, "Oh, well, that plant-based meat is like so bad for you." It's like you just ate a fucking Lucky Dog. Like, are you kidding me? So I was like, well, you know, like, what do you think the pigs are just like unprocessed and hot dogs? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That kind of shut her down a little bit. It's a little satisfying. But yeah, they've done a really good job with this whole like, I mean, the meat industry. Like plant-based meat is bad. Like that's very ingrained right now. It's a bummer.
Yep.
I've been thinking about making like a short about it.
Yeah, I think that would be good. It is interesting too. Like the meat industry propaganda tends to be focused on how mock meat isn't healthy, and also how cows are good for the environment. But like, I feel like very little of it is based on how animals, like the experience of animals, right? It's like most of it to me is based on those things, which makes sense because those are the things that like I feel like it's like a sad commentary because they know what is going to like move people. And it's like, they're not focusing on the animal aspect of it because they know that's not the like strongest argument, I guess, in their mind. You know, they know that like the big outlets are pushing things because it's healthy and because it's environmental, but not because it's better for animals. So I found that interesting.
Damn shame. Yeah. The other thing, a lot of times I hear vegans talk about like, oh, we should really talk to people about health, and you know, because people really care about that. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? People don't care about health.
I know.
Like, who are these people? You know, most people I know don't exercise. They drink a lot. Like, they eat like shit. Maybe they, in their mind, they think maybe they care about health, but that's just not what I see. Maybe if you live in California, that's the case, but
no, I mean,
not from where I am.
I've had the exact same thing. It's like, and I actually, in general, have eaten healthier than almost anyone else around me. And so like this argument, when I hear it, is like extra silly. I'm like, no, like I know that's not it. Like, you motherfucker. Like, and it's like, I think even a few of my friends have tried to make that argument to me. And I'm like, dude, I know you. I just watched what you ate. Like, what are you playing at here? Like, this isn't gonna like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, good point. It's like, no, that's clearly bullshit.
Let me change my advocacy.
Yeah.
That shit's annoying.
Let's see. Mr. Jackal says, it's an awesome book about, this is eco-socialism. I almost said eco-fascism, eco-socialism. It's an awesome book about sustainability and the futility of fixing capitalism. He has some debates and talks on YouTube. I would really recommend you look into. Okay, yeah, sounds cool.
Cool, will do.
So Tiger Wolf says, I love Not Just Bikes. It is a good channel.
What's up, Tiger Wolf?
Let's see. Lewis says that ought is in relation to epistemology, the why, as opposed to what someone does. I don't totally know what that sentence means.
Have you read any good books lately, Justin?
Let me see. What have I read recently? I haven't actually been reading as much, unfortunately. Let me see real quick. Oh, hold on. Did I get someone sent me a tip and I missed it.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Master Jackal, thank you. Love you guys. Thanks for the stream and all the work you do. Oh, thank you.
Aw,
thanks so much.
dude. Appreciate
Yes.
it.
Sorry, I missed that. Books. Hold on. Let me see what I'm reading because I think I do have something on Audible right now.
Like how you have to check.
Yeah, it's like I haven't read stuff in a while. Oh, I did start reading Why Trust the Science, which is a very good book, but not a super recommendable one. I don't think I would recommend it. It gets in the weeds a little bit. I kind of want to like read the book and then make like a easier to digest video of it, where I pull out like all the like sort of more dense like philosophy. Oh fuck, I don't have it on this device. I don't fucking know. Oh wait, hold on. No, I know how I can get it. One sec. You totally threw me off with this, this question.
That was my goal.
Let me go to my reader real quick and see what I got. Yeah, Why Trust the Science. I did reread Merchants of Doubt recently.
Oh, I still need to. I started reading it. I thought it was kind of boring. I think I am going to watch the documentary.
The documentary basically goes over pretty much what's in the book, so it's good. Yeah, and if you don't like Merchants of Doubt, you won't like Why Trust the Science because it's also going to be like boring for you.
Okay.
Well, Why Trust the Science is really good. It's like because I've noticed recently just people's lack of trust in institutions. And again, I get there's like many reasons why you would not trust institutions at this point, but I feel like it's swung in the other direction where people are like, it's just whatever anyone says. Whatever anyone says is the thing. Like this person says that, this person says that, so I guess we can't really know. And like
there's like this futility feeling.
Yeah, and I want to explain why this doesn't really make sense. It's like this common thing with like, well, yeah, one second they're telling us eggs are good for us, the next second they're telling us eggs are bad for us, and it's like, so you just can't really know anything. It's like I kind of want to address that, but in like a broader sense of like, what's actually happening there, like why it feels like that's what's happening, but in science that's actually not happening.
I was talking to this guy about animal sentience. He was like kind of making the argument that animals don't feel pain. And I was like, oh well, we can look to studies, we can look to science, like they definitely are sentient. And then I use kind of real world examples too. And he was like, well, you can't trust the scientists because they're all potheads, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But yeah, there's definitely that kind of like don't trust anyone now.
And I think that that's part of what I want to like get into, because it's like the main problem I see with it is that like people are like, I don't trust them, and I'm like, okay, but you trust someone.
Yeah,
you trust something. Like you have some sort of belief system, and you're believing something. So where is that coming from? And like the question always is like, I don't know if you've heard this on, if you watch any of these like vegan health channels, something they bring up a lot is like, is X, like someone will be like, is X healthy? And the response is compared to what? And the same thing goes with the science. Like people will be like, science isn't 100% accurate. It's like, okay, fair enough. But what are you getting your information from? Okay. And does it follow like does it have like stronger epistemological and empirical groundings than whatever this other thing is? And if you have like the totality of like a scientific discipline up against Sean Baker, like you can't be like, well, it's like, who's to say, Sean Baker or like, the hundreds of scientists who like work in peer reviewed journals over like decades, it's like, no, this isn't like this isn't a like, I guess a balanced comparison. So like some of it is going to kind of talk about that. So yeah.
Sean Baker, what a guy.
Yeah. All right. You got to get out of here, Natalie?
I think I do. My family's calling.
Yeah.
They want me to go to Whole Foods.
Nice.
But yeah, fun stream. Thanks to everyone for watching. It was cool. I like streams. I think they're fun. I think I'm going to try to start streaming as well. Yeah.
These are actually more, in many ways, like these streams are more for me than they are for the audience, because like I need like some sort of like catharsis. And like, the only vegan in my life is my girlfriend, and she's like not into it at this like level of nerddom. Yeah. And so like I can't go this deep, or like she doesn't know who the fuck Joey Carbstrong is or like whatever. So it's like,
oh wow.
Yeah. So I like to get on here and like chat shit with you guys.
Oh
So,
yeah, for sure. I get
Yeah.
that. I'm at the point where like I know a lot of vegans, but they all live in like different cities.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, that's one thing I want to say to you, Justin. I think you should start coming to like events and stuff. Like when I went to the ALC conference, it was awesome. I met like a bunch of people, and there's an animal rights march in New York, Labor Day. I'm definitely going.
Okay.
So if anyone watching's going, it's going to be really cool. There's going to be like a huge fur protest after, but I think stuff like that is good.
Yeah,
and
that'd
I've
be
learned
cool.
a lot from it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I do need to get to some of that stuff. I need to find a way to smash some more stuff in here. I've unfortunately got like a little busier with my job and my just personal life recently, and so
yeah.
I've had to slow like that's also why these streams are very easy. Like
Yeah,
I
you
could
don't have to like edit for 3 weeks.
exactly like 60 hours of editing, or I can just get
Oh
on
my
a
God.
stream and like talk.
Does
shit,
it really
so.
take you 60 hours to edit a video?
Some of those videos, yeah, some of those are ridiculous. Well, and if you
Wild.
also count in the research of actually researching and doing the video, it
Yeah,
can be quite
yeah.
time consuming. So, yeah, that's so I have one on crop deaths that I almost have the whole
You've
script
been
written.
telling me you were making for like 6
I know,
months.
I know. It's the script is almost totally written, so I'm gonna probably record the audio this week, which means it will probably be out in like 2 or 3 weeks till I get done with
Word.
like the editing of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I might do a slight thing on crop dust too, or I guess I'm just gonna that Ted Nugent Joe Rogan conversation.
Classic.
I'm gonna do something on that because I don't know. When I was doing my Joe Rogan video, that there were so many things in that conversation I wanted to address.
Yeah.
So I think it deserves a longer video. Some of the claims he makes about hunting are pretty inaccurate as well. So yeah, that's probably next for me.
Nice. I look forward to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, peace out, everyone.
Yep. And if anyone's not subscribed to Natalie, go subscribe to her channel. It's just
Fucking
called
matter.
Natalie Fulton now.
Natalie
Right.
Fulton.
Yeah. No longer the
Right.
juggling vegan. It's only
No,
for the OGs.
no more juggling. All right,
right.
later, dude.
See you, Natalie. Yeah, and I'll stay on a little longer, guys, if you want to ask me anything else or whatever.